This is the morning session of the secondary science work group.
We're live. All right, I guess they left this. Did they do this with you guys last time? Give you work copies to fill out for your last lesson?
Yeah, who would love to pass those out so don't forget. Fortunately, I saw them last time. We almost missed them. My boss goes, I need to talk to you about them.
You just sign it right?
You had to fill out your mileage.
You must be
Fill out your
kidding.
mileage.
I said, no, I got mine sent back to me. And they said, no, you don't do any of that. You do it. And she goes, all you do is sign it and send it back.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah, you sign this one and send it back. This front copy you fill out completely. And then this one here you sign and date. That's all.
We went back and forth on this a bunch, and I also found out because I drive back and forth each day, I can't get my meals because I don't spend the night. I said, so what you're after is I have to spend more money in order to get reimbursed for a little bit. You can't even get lunch. No.
If you're just here,
I get lunch.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't spend the night, so I don't get lunch. Is what they told me.
And I didn't get lunch.
I told it anyway.
See, I took my kids turn everything into the school, the school's turning everything into the city.
And so like I'm like talking to my husband about this, and he goes, well, the sheriff's department's the same way. And then the very next sentence he said, he's talking about how the Missouri Highway Department bought this big piece of land in Boone County, built these huge barns on it less than a year ago, and now they've advocated the whole thing, and they're putting it all up for sale, and they're redoing everything. I said, okay, so that doesn't waste money, but it's wasteful to give me lunch.
That's fine.
You're not allowed to eat.
Well, I would go ahead and fill it out. Just put it in there and we'll swipe it off if they don't cover
Yeah, they
it.
swipe it off.
Otherwise, just fill out the top sheet for completion, sign the second two sheets, and then.
Well, it's
So, and has everybody gotten all the reimbursements so far? Okay. Just making sure. Now, the only thing I didn't understand is they had me do the fax and the one thing with all my bank stuff.
Yeah, and I
direct deposit, and then they sent me a check.
Yeah, I told them I didn't do it.
I'm like, okay. So I'm wondering if that hadn't actually been completely processed, and maybe this time they'll. All right.
I still like this ethnicity that they have females up there. That cracks me up.
Well, because I'm a business too, and our business is in the best time to be because you get a special status.
There's a female owner.
But with other ethnicity, it just doesn't fit there. I mean, it's sort of like, okay, this is what I want.
I decided to just wear it with pride if you long, but yeah, I agree with you.
We had a long talk about this yesterday. I have with the teacher.
That, or I can just put your name in and search for your email.
Oh, WELZ.
Did everyone get the updated spreadsheet that I emailed out with the work that?
No, do I need to put it on? Or just me personally, yeah. How do you, how do you for your? The caption of this.
Unless if you pull those,
There it is. There it is. That's why I have dozens of emails in my folder because that's where everything is stored.
There's nothing else.
Oh, yeah, school. No. Yeah, school, no, they're not going like that. This one. Those was organized. We're supposed to read it.
I think it's 6 and 4.
we've got everybody here.
So you said first thing we're gonna do is set all the dates.
I think we need to, because right now, like I said, if anybody drops out in June, no quorum. We're gonna get my internet up and working here.
There's one without security, public Wi-Fi.
There it is. The one that says, be careful, other people might be able to see what they know.
Yeah, if they're that interested, go for it.
Oh, okay. So,
Maybe they can take over.
did anybody else want something to do? I didn't.
Is it right?
Well, in my effort to get here last night before Destiny closed and stuff, get all that stuff, I completely forgot to get this from the library, and I was looking up thinking, because my key doesn't work to every door in the building. So I was at the high school at 7 o'clock this morning, and luckily, my key works to get into the library, and I was able to steal the software from her. So I got this. So I grabbed my tablet, I was like, this isn't gonna be very fun to work on today, but I thought it was too close. Yeah, I was gonna pull up the Google poll. And I just put on the dates, I threw a couple extra Saturdays in there, cause I knew a couple of those dates didn't work for me, so, but I pretty much just put up the dates that you had sent me.
Well, I was just throwing them out there because trying to avoid the holiday, trying to avoid,
My birthday is the holiday, so.
Oh, okay.
July 4th.
When's the third?
That's right.
So we've already thrown up what we did.
Tony sent me an email reply, so. I'm gonna pull that up because I didn't add that in there. That might change something, but. Okay, so you could add June 4th and 5th for Tony. That doesn't bring us up to a quorum on either of those days, and then July 16th.
Which that would bring that up to.
Let's bring that up to a quorum on the 16th or the 18th. Huh? Thursday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, July 16th, 17th, 18th.
Which I actually. So I could actually be here on Thursday.
Kind of June, July. Are you guys able to pull this up? So you can see?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, I could make the Saturday the 18th, but I didn't mark it because it was a whole block, and I couldn't make Thursday, Friday.
Are you guys dead set on, are you guys dead set on having a 3-day block like that? Is that the hard part, or should we break it out into multiple?
That's really hard for
days?
me, just because I have a 1-year-old and 3-year-old at home.
I understand, I have 5. If you count my husband, I've got 5 of them. Right?
Yeah.
I can't make
And I
it.
just feel like that's recorded. Awesome gloves.
They're not gonna watch it.
The thought behind having a block, whether it's 2 days, 3 days, just having some sort of block is just to really knock out a whole bunch at one time. Oh yeah, we don't have that Saturday the 25th.
No, you said Thursday, Friday, Thursday I'm flying back in, but, so.
Well, we're gonna, just looking ahead at what we're gonna need to do. One of these meetings, we need to arrange with the elementary ed. When we have the hearing, once we have our dates finalized, I was told that we need to contact them and they'll send somebody, their chair, or vice chair, or whatever. I don't know if we need to get the whole group, their whole group, or just their chair. I'm not sure what route we should take with this. Personally, I think we should probably do the whole group so we can really have a picture of the alignment there. But at least to get an update of where they are and stuff like that. But at some point during these dates,
So you spoke to them at the
hearing.
hearing. Did they go ahead and go back and start reviewing some stuff after?
No idea.
Because in February, they were all was good and they thought they were pretty much done.
Oh no, they're
Well,
not.
that depended on who you were talking to.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the person who had contacted me.
They're not done. And actually, from what I'm understanding, is that there's going to be a lot of discussion between our group and their group, because the direction they took is quite different.
So what did,
Yeah,
what
no
did they
kidding.
This should have been
So-
taken care of.
What did they do?
Which we thought we
They
did.
tried to
We
bump
went
us
and
with
talked to
leaves.
them. They told us what they were going to do.
That's what
We
they
told
told them.
them.
Which is,
Okay,
I mean-
that works with about what we are going to do. So we had that conversation early and said,
They didn't say anything since then.
not really.
Are they basing anything on being GSS like we are?
There's a faction, my understanding, and once again, this is all just what you hear, okay? But from group members is that there's a group of them in there that they want to use NDSS like we're using and believe that what they're doing hasn't met the bar. You know, so they're kind of pushing towards, we gotta go back and redo. There's another group, an elementary group, that says, we went through, we bumped this up, we're done. So that's where there's.
So that's who contacted me.
Yeah. That's my understanding of the group, but there's
Well,
two ideas going on.
I can just tell you that in most elementary schools, reading and math are above everything else.
Yeah, science is barely taught anymore.
Yeah, because 50% of my kids had 0 assignments, and 50% of them had a lot of assignments. You know, which teacher they have.
Yeah, it's very good.
But the thing is, if they're gonna do science, they don't do good science, and so that's not the standards.
Well,
There, if they're not gonna do it, they're not gonna do it, for good standards of, what the bar, is they're not gonna do it, they're not gonna do it.
And that's not necessarily on the teacher
No.
as the policy of the school.
Oh, yeah, they have to work with us to different.
They just now, at this point, they just have to have enough science to pass the 5th grade map.
now, so again, looking ahead in the next couple of meetings, with the goals that we have for the next couple of meetings, one is we need to meet with the other group. Two, we need to have something prepared for, we need to get to a point where our goal is to have the second survey go out in August.
Yeah,
Then we need to have everything
Yeah.
pretty much where we can like go through it and finalize it, say in by the end of July, so that it could be put out there mid-August after give everybody a little bit of time to get back to school and stuff before we start throwing surgery out. But, yeah. So that's kind of the thought process. Am I missing anything else that we need to do between now and then?
What did you guys get done with the last meeting?
We have gotten through, at least the small groups, gotten through talking about everything except for science, and then
We started.
we started
Started
talking.
science a little.
Yeah, we started to kind of discuss it, and we kind of ran out of time. But, otherwise, there were a couple of life science. Shelley has the list of the ones that were going to kind of pop up. And those were the ones we were saving today when we had the most people here. So we could really have a good conversation.
But we're also going to, because small groups to the others, and the whole group's going to look at.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So if we can do the hot button issues first, or what we have left, kind of as a whole group, then go back to what the small groups did and address those. And I think that's.
Well, let's look at the dates figure out first then. So, like I said, I just threw out the dates that have been sent to me. So, it looks like June 6th or June 26th are good. Now, I only have 12 of 15 people who responded. 13 if I count Tony, but I just had you guys add in. So there were 2 people who still hadn't responded. One of them was Natalie Frankenberg, did she come last time?
I don't think she's ever been.
No, but I've been in contact with her through email. And so the one in February she couldn't make. And then, so.
I don't think I have this document. I don't have it. I'm so
I sent it out through an email.
I'll tell you the date she sent it, you can find it. Because I had to search for it and I found it.
You know what? She's not on here.
Yeah, but I got 12 out of 15 invites.
Oh, okay.
They only show up once you've responded.
Oh, okay.
So that's why Tony's not on there. She didn't respond through this. She sent an email.
I got it.
So we're on for June 6th, and I can put this on my calendar.
Well, we could ask. Are you finding it?
No, I did not see it.
I'll just invite you right now. Again, because I think.
And you were available on
I can forward her the email. How would that work?
Sorry, I got it right here. Okay, what's your email, Katie?
So yeah, once you're in there, then it's all visual.
Dennis, you're on
Yes.
here. You're on here. So who else is missing? Hold on. Susan, Annette, Patricia, me, Kim, Danielle, Jack, Debbie, Frank, Tony, Troy, Shelley, Dennis, Rodney, Natalie, Katie.
And then it's supposed to, every time somebody responds, it's supposed to send me an email, and for some reason it doesn't.
It does that to me because I'm the administrator of it, so. Okay, so Rodney hasn't responded. Was he here last time?
He was here last time.
NSBA hasn't been able to tell me anything about Scott Goldstein. They can't even.
I'm glad they sent you the updated list though, or is that?
No,
the updated list?
this is what I got off of Destiny before they had taken it down, and then I've been in contact with E and D, and so they keep asking, well, who's there?
Well, and that's what they asked me at the hearing too, like, well, how many people do you have come to your meetings regularly? I'm like, 8, 10.
See, I thought they were asking how many we had on our committee, and you said that I was going, oh, we have 10.
Oh, no,
There are 16 appointed,
yeah, well, they know that.
Of
It's
which-
just they were trying to find out how many people were.
of which
actually
14 have attended at least one meeting,
Right.
so.
Alright, did you get it? Okay.
Let me refresh this. Okay, so Katie. Bare minimum, that's exactly how. Well, out of the, actually, Nina told us only to count the people who have actually shown up, so we have 15 people, so 8.
And I can make the 6th work, so we might actually have 10 for the 6th. Just trying to keep that.
Your son's birthday?
I was here
Well,
on my son's
his birthday's on the 7th, but we're taking his sister to camp that Sunday, so we're gonna celebrate on the 6th. Where should we?
So
I prefer not to.
So can I mark the 6th?
Well, we can either mark the 6th or the 26th.
I can do.
Are there any of you who have, I mean, if both of them say 9, so we can just vote how many prefer the 6th, how many prefer the 26th, it's 9 and 9. Okay, how many of you would prefer June 6th? How many of you would prefer June 26th? You're the 6th?
I'm out of state on both.
I think the 26th would give us enough time to coordinate with the elementary, also make sure that.
I can possibly do June 6th. I might do
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know if like business people, but it only goes through my legs. There's so much experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
those-
in the center, on the line,
So there's a plan that says it's bigger than normal.
There were 3 different polls, make sure you click on number 3.
Because this one is June.
Yeah, you're on the dates in between, what's number 3? Should be on Tuesday.
The email is April 20th, if that helps.
You want me to resend it, so it'll come up right now? You're welcome.
Are you sending it to my Google email or?
The only email I have for you is this email.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were to point of only being able to do one day and maybe more, is it possible to do longer?
Longer than 94.
Well, I'm just saying, if we're needing to get stuff done
I'm the closest one here. I'm the one who's only driving an hour. So you guys are all driving in.
Once I'm here, I'm here, so.
The 9 a.m. is preferable to anything earlier considering driving in
No,
the
but we could go to like, 5, 6.
If we would do the 26th, I'm actually staying in town that time anyway. So I could
But you could possibly make the 6th work.
And if I,
So it looks like the 6th, if Tony's saying the 6th, but it looks like the 6th gets 10 bucks then. So put that in your calendar, so the 6th. We could still make it a little bit longer that day. We could do 9 to 5 or something if we wanted to.
if I'm here, I'm here.
6 to 1 happening in the order.
Did you send me one?
I sent it.
We can go ahead and do 9 to 5 on the 6th, or we can just do it.
I just marked it 9 to 4, then if you need to go longer, that's fine. They can sit there and start it. Well, they don't even do that. They'll just lay there and go, I'm hungry.
And that was too many. We're being a little.
Alright, what about the July dates then? Would it be better if they were just 2-day dates instead of 3-day? Okay, so look at your July calendars. We did 2-day dates, either Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday.
so it's Friday, the 17th to 18th, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Are there any of those that work for you?
I can do the 24th and 25th. Friday, Saturday. The rest of it I'm gone. I've got the 3rd, and I'll just get back to the 24th.
Write this down, because I'm not gonna try and redo it, do it pro.
No, I could do 25th, 25th.
That's the only day on the whole thing. That's just like.
July 16th.
Right, and
My daughter's big enough to home with me.
I used to shop on cattle.
alright, so Shelley, you said you could do pretty much any 2-day thing.
Yeah, 17th and 18th is better than 16th and 17th. So maybe that's good. If I have to miss something.
Alright, what about you, Matt?
Well, that, you mean the 16th through the 18th?
Or any 2-day, because pretty much everybody just said if it was a 2-day thing, it would be better than a 3-day thing,
Right.
so.
Right now I'm open 17, 18, and 24, 25. So just tell me which one you want me to break down.
Okay.
Maybe there's a possibility I could come in for try to the end of it.
Okay. Okay. Do any of the other dates in July work for you? Okay, what about you?
Anything except for 17th and 18th.
Alright.
Sorry.
See how you guys are?
Sorry.
What about you? Whatever, alright, you said the 24th and 25th.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, Katie?
The 9th is my anniversary, so I can't do that little thing.
Understandable.
Other than that,
Anything?
really, unless it's 2 days.
Okay, so you could do maybe the 10th or the 11th or the 17th or 18th.
Maybe not the 10th. I
Okay.
think we're going out of town.
Oh, okay. So well, let's just take that weekend off.
Okay.
So 17th and 18th or the 24th and 25th.
Yeah.
What about you, Frank?
I just do my best guess for
Okay. You're kind of up in the air. So, and I think Jack, what about you?
There's no way I do Thursdays at teacher Thursday.
Okay.
2 days is tough, but I would try.
Okay.
There's not any other dates that are really bad for me. But 2 days in a row would be hard for me to say.
Okay.
But if you do a Friday, Saturday, I'll try to make at least one of my birthdays.
Okay. That's it. What about you, Dennis? How's your schedule in July?
Whatever, so there's one day that they found out on July.
Yeah, you said 16th through 18th and then 23rd through the 24th, but you kind of did like that anyway. So, okay, well, just looking at, because I can do pretty much any of them at this point. We haven't set times for this yet, so it looks like the most votes get the 24th and 25th on that one.
Can you send out an email like a day or two before, saying who's coming, because if plans change, and always say, yeah, sure, I'll be there,
Although okay, so 20, let me just make sure we've got a quorum here for the 24th and 25th. Shelley, yay or nay on 24th, 25th? That was a me, okay. Patricia, 24th, 25th? July. Because I have 7 votes, but that, like I said, that still doesn't get us a quorum. Okay, so we got, all right. So I've got me, Debbie, Susan. You said 24th and 25th was okay for you. Dennis said that would work for him. 24th.
I know I can make one, I don't know if I can make two.
Okay. Well, maybe you and Patricia could coordinate and you guys met both. You guys don't show up on the same day. 24th, 25th work for you?
There is a, I saw
Okay.
And then we don't have Danielle.
All right, and Katie? Here, okay. Well, that gives us 7 to 8 with 2 maybes. But that gets more votes than anything else. Any other dates?
So we're doing the 6th in June.
6th in June, it looks like the 24th and 25th in July.
How many people did you have on the
According to who's here and who's responding right now, 6, or no, 5. And 7 down for the 24th and 25th, and 5 down for the 24th.
Is it a ghost of stuff that you're involved with? We might consider that. Well, guys, remember when somebody gets a birth
Oh.
what was the button? This part of the world existed. We're older.
We've been hating
No,
longer.
because I don't go back to school.
There's a picture.
So
Oh, nice. Right.
Yeah. I was on last night.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
Teacher came in there and they did the same pose.
don't have these two sets, these two, because this is just, this is.
These are the updated ones with the hot topic ones that we did not.
Okay. I have the same list. I got.
Oh, I gotta change that. Okay.
I have a few extra
Are we ready for this other?
Yep,
Are we done
we're
with
ready to get rolling.
Well, we need to, because if the weather holds on the morning, and we've got to wear it to leave.
If anybody needs one, I have a few extra, you ignore the bottom because that's the one we did last time, but it just kind of broke down which topic, which standards went with each kind of topic, and then the next gen, a copy of the next gen standards with all of those, I've got those on there too. So I do have a few extra copies of that.
I have the wrong part here.
Yeah, you have to what do you have left? I'll share.
She and I will share.
We'll share. That'll be nice.
I've got a
Yeah, we
couple
like
more.
each other.
Anybody else need one? I've got.
Sure.
So we completed all of the small group stuff.
So, okay, sorry, I just wanna make sure I'm up to date, missing one meeting, I feel like I'm way out of the loop.
I know, that's why I'm trying so hard to start getting around the six.
Okay, so all small groups have done their thing as far as we've rewritten any of the small groups, or looked at wording for all of the
We've
small,
discussed and brought suggestions
for all middle school,
for
all high school.
Except for earth science, life science.
Yes.
Okay, so small group has looked at wording for everything except for these.
I'm looking, I just wanted to, like, I was not here in February for that high school life science. And I'm like looking at the revisions and the recommendations, and I don't agree with some of them.
That's why we're gonna talk in big groups.
Okay, because I'm also not understanding like the notes and recommendations, so maybe that could be it, you know,
Well, I
so.
just copied what was given to me.
Yeah, I had copies
So,
on here and it was my notes, so she might not have written down what
Shame
mine.
on you.
That's
Sorry.
I tried to exactly how I saw it, and I
Sorry,
gave
teacher
further
first.
explanation.
Teacher first,
Same
So,
goes for my
I just wanted to make sure that we
Those
were going to
standards
revisit
second.
it,
Yes,
because
we
I'm
are.
very
Or
much
third or
like,
fourth.
I just,
Okay.
Well, and that's the
Yeah.
thing is that we really, I would like to, when we go and talk about these as a whole group, I'd like to actually make it where, okay, this is going to be the wording we suggested. And we don't have to go back and then that wording is what we put in our survey
Yeah.
when we issue it, so that we're not doing double duty.
and that's what we did last time with the life
That's
science.
what
We
thought
had,
were supposed to be going to start with, so that's why it took us so much longer to do.
Okay, well,
Well, we were pretty on our
I
wording.
was gonna say,
We
our
did our
notes are a
wording.
little shorter, but I didn't copy
We didn't
it
have
all.
any massive wording changes though.
Yeah.
There's
Ew.
one,
These are moves we didn't do yet.
yeah, there's one that we haven't done yet because we needed a little more time to, yeah. But beyond that, I mean, it's things like take out where it says clarification statement and make it 2 sentences. You know, I mean, it's not, it's physical science, there's not a lot of earth shaking activity there.
It's all things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I got that.
I'm glad you
I
got
got
it.
it.
I missed it, what did you say?
It's physical science, it's not earth shaking
Oh.
activity. That was brilliant, I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Oh.
I'm a nerd proud.
I just want that stuff out there to see if we can-
Oh, even better.
Closed motion. Yeah, I saw a couple of abstracts.
Yes, there was a couple of abstracts, we need to make sure we get to those while we're here this meeting.
Sorry, I wasn't here.
It's all right. We muddled.
Okay, so the first, we wanna start with the earth science, since there's so many of those.
Let's start with page 1, first one.
You wanna
would you like those documents?
Oh, you have them separated out by topic. Okay. Alright, so high school, life science.
We're going high school life science first.
Well, do we need to talk about the topic as a whole, and then, because that will direct our,
Well, how about we take a minute and read. So is it the whole standard? The whole grouping of standards?
No,
LS
I
4-1
initially
through
only
4-6?
had 3 down, but when we started to do it, I said, oh no, that affects all of them, so I crossed it out and wrote all, because
Okay, so, well, I've just got it pulled up here. So, high school life science 4.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just start with 4-1?
Yep.
All right, so let's take a moment and
I currently don't have a survey up.
You shared the survey with us. You shared it back in January.
She shared it with me, and, you know, the results were after that.
Yeah.
In April when I got it.
See, I get confused when it goes like Google Drive and Google, and to me, it all sounds like to be one place, and it's not.
No, because you've got a shared folder and then your drive.
I just
Okay,
found
so
it.
Susan there it is. And then in my drive, so I know where to find it.
Well, my problem is I have 2 drives. I have school drive and I have my drive. Sometimes I gotta stop.
You know what
and
page
figure out
it is
where
on?
I put the thing. I think so, I just couldn't remember.
Yeah, I just want to find the page.
Oh, it goes under shared?
Yes.
Yeah, that part.
Shared
is
April
just-
9th.
Let's go life science, and this is, it's cool, so I'm getting close.
Whoever gets to it first.
I'll give you a page number. Yeah, I'm close. I'm really close. I'm in high school life science anyway. High school life science 3. Oh, high school life science 4.
All I have on the list is stuff.
I'm gonna survey. Okay, high school life science 4 starts on page 93 out of 124. At least that's what
It's loading.
Adobe says, yeah. Adobe Acrobat. It's,
That's all I
I downloaded it.
What is the actual, what is the actual page number on it?
Well, on what she has typed, it says 102 out of 133.
That's what I mean.
Okay, because for me it was 93 or 100.
Yeah, because it all
But
depends.
that's
if
because
you
I
don't
cut
have-
all that first jump
Yeah.
off.
So, yeah,
Okay,
so,
it's on page what?
2 out of 133, 102 is where it starts.
Almost there.
This is one of the few that had, this was one of the fewest changes. PDF page up here was on the stories.
Okay. That's easier for me.
Yeah, it's easier for me too.
One. Jeez. Alright.
mean, I don't have any problems with this. Beyond the fact that communicate scientific information, you know, that kind of falls back to what we joked about with ask questions.
Yeah.
You know, I get they're wanting it to be open because that allows for a broad variety of ways for that communication to happen. It could be verbal, it could be written, it could be a lot of different ways. Yeah, it could be a lot of things. But I would almost want to add a clarification statement about what communicate means. You know, I mean, give them some options or add something in there about that because I just don't want. I don't know. I just don't. I want it clear to a young teacher about what all could happen. You know, possible. You know, have a statement, a clarification statement that says possible forms of communication include debating, written, oral, you know, etc.
Well, and I think that because whether I believe in full all of it is one thing. I still want my kids to know those things and be aware. I don't want them to get it the first time in college. You know, I want them to know those things. But I also want them to know, you know, there's also science out there that disproves that too. And I want to
Wait,
make
science
balance.
that disproves what?
Some of the different issues over there. What I'm saying is there is science on there.
There's no science.
Let's go to
Yes, there
semantics.
is.
Let's
Time
time. Let's go to semantics here. Let's not say disproves. Let's say, and let's say proves, because they don't say proves, they say supports. See, y'all watch semantics here. Don't say prove or disprove on any of them. It supports different theories, and it's not saying, you know, it just supports. And there is evidence that supports this, but there's evidence that supports other things. So let's slow down right there on semantics and don't prove, disprove. I think we'll get, nobody can agree to that.
Okay, no,
So, yeah.
The point I'm trying to make though is I would like it more balanced.
Well, here's how, and if I may, here's how things are determined is what we teach in school and classroom. When research is conducted on any subject, it is submitted to an article, it is submitted to a journal for publication, so it can be peer-reviewed, tested again. That is the scientific process. Anyone is welcome to submit whatever research, whatever science that they have conducted to that process, and that is accepted by all scientific communities. When a experiment has been conducted in such a way that it has been replicated and the community agrees that this is something that is well supported, that information is then brought into a textbook. That's how it's always worked. And anyone is welcome to submit that material to the scientific community. At this time, as we were Frank was saying, there's evidence that shows that there has never been a submission in any way to the scientific community in the process that is currently accepted by the scientific community of that other evidence. Now, I know that there are people who say otherwise or have other evidence until it's been submitted through those forums, then it is not accepted by the scientific community. That is, I believe, where that was coming from on both ends.
And that's the piece we can't teach, regardless of what it is.
Can you bring in extracurricular material in the classroom that counters evolution?
Absolutely. It just can't be in science.
It just has to be science.
And yeah, it has to be science. We cannot teach other stuff. That's federal, right there. I mean,
That's supported by law.
yeah. There's been court cases.
Separation of church and state.
Separation of churches, that is something that's was brought up that's really not true.
No. Hold on. I think you're not quite understanding what I mean here. If we're talking about teaching creationism, I cannot do that. I'm allowed to teach science in science class. Okay? That is been supported by Supreme Court law. Yeah, that's supported by Supreme Court decisions. Now, if I'm in a religion class and I'm teaching about the different beliefs of religion and how different religions believe how the world was created, that's completely different. But in science class, I have to teach what is accepted science.
What's your criteria for science?
I just explained.
First thing it has to, you gotta come up with a theory, it's gotta
You're
be
gonna come up with a
something.
hypothesis.
Yeah.
Hypothesis. A theory has supported evidence, a lot of it.
It has to be tested, it has to be repeated.
And it has to be submitted through the proper form
Well-
of the science review.
First thing is, let's stay with some of them repeatable. In science, you have to be there when it's being done. Right?
No.
No.
Why don't you?
Well, you can't be in the middle of a assignment. It's like, we have science that goes on.
Can we repeat having one form of life changing information?
We can most certainly, well, they had the theory of evolution long before we had DNA. They used the fossil record to figure out how things would come together. Now we have DNA to look at, and they all fell into place exactly as it was, and that proved what we did strong.
Supported.
Supports. Information about fossil record, there's also science out there that does not support.
No, I'm sorry, it's not science.
There are things that have been found that don't quite fit perfectly. You're right.
That's part of science.
And that's part of science. We conduct experiments sometimes that the results don't turn out exactly how we expected them, even in replication, we were expecting them to turn out a certain way, and they still didn't, and then you have to go back and figure out why. So any fossil evidence that we find that doesn't quite fit, we have to go back and figure out why it doesn't fit.
Science is a process. And it
It's
changes.
judges.
And theory should change.
The
No
big
theory has
science-
ever lasted more than
The
about 100 years. Every time it changes.
point is, we
Theories,
change.
science
Yes.
theories change.
As there's more
There's-
evidence.
Well, Darwin's been had his theory for 200 years.
Then you're misunderstanding his theory. It's not the same as when Darwin was
It's
here.
like a puzzle.
It's not at all close to it.
It's not, if you read his book, it's not what the saying these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that has.
well,
In
the
fact,
point is
yeah.
moot. Science, evolution is science. The courts have come out completely on that side. There's no gray area there. If we put anything but evolution in there, it's not going to. I mean, you can want it to go forward, that's fine. I have 10 court cases we can share and look through right now if you guys want. But there's just, it's not going to go forward.
Well, you say there's no bona fide scientists that disagree with Darwin.
I never
No,
said
we
there
didn't
wasn't a
say
bona
that.
fide
Okay,
science.
there's a list of scientists.
I can also give you a list of churches that say they're perfectly okay with evolution.
Well,
The Pope being one of them.
Well, it doesn't.
I
Yes.
happen to be one.
50 gave up. Well,
The point is, that doesn't matter. The point is, you can't forward anything but evolution. You can't. I mean, instead of just saying,
you could critique it, you can have stuff that's
no,
against it.
that's also against the law.
Well,
Actually, I have it right here.
Where they could do that is in English class where they do papers that they get to do that kind of thing, as a debated issue. They can do it in speech class. They can actually do that in history class. Yeah. Those are those places
No,
where
we're
that,
required to
where
do it in science now.
Yeah,
We've got
that's
the
part of
literacy
Common
portion.
Core.
Yeah, we've got the literacy
We could.
portion of science now.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, the majority of schools, I mean, the schools, we had this debate early on, schools are not teaching main information. They don't go
No,
there.
no.
They don't go there. They're not about to go there.
No.
They don't want to go there. Well, the
But
thing
that's a
is,
local
what,
control thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
whatever-
local control.
That doesn't,
That really
If
is.
you're saying they're not teaching that anymore, some.
well, I know, but yeah, but these things we say that too, it's not gonna,
it doesn't matter what the
it's suggested
standard says.
because with the local control and the individual
Unless it's
teacher.
language that that's not
And the
And the
individual
clarification is just about testing, it's not about what's gonna be taught in the classroom, it's
Yeah.
about what's gonna be tested on. So,
And the thing is, in my classroom, I would actually, here's what the science books have. Now we're told in ninth grade, the kids would say, well, what do you believe? My students would ask me, and I say, okay, are you asking the teacher or me, Mrs. Goodwin, the person? They said, you're the person. So then I tell them. And we can do that if we say it that way, and I do. And so the kids know my beliefs. And because here's where I come back to, and probably this is what a lot of Christian teachers do, is, I'm not about to limit God in how He did it. If He chose to create the universe by the Big Bang, fine and dandy. If He chose to make everybody get here the way He did by a certain process, I'm not going to limit God. He can do anything. And I just say it's 6 months for the kids ask my personal opinion off the record. And that's where it is. I say, I don't have that authority. And I'm not going to say, well, he couldn't have done it that way. You know what I mean?
My students hear from me when they ask me that question, that maybe science is trying to explain how God did it.
Yeah.
And that's
God can still be behind it. And that's the whole deal. And there's a lot of scientists who are Christians and they, profess their Christian beliefs. And I'm all over it.
Okay,
And
we
then-
can't forward any type of religious doctrine.
Right.
So that it's just a non-starter. We can't do that.
And that's not necessarily what I'm suggesting.
But what you're suggesting is opening the door.
No, it's based on
And
religion.
religious belief.
We can't do that. And I don't understand how that's even a topic. We just can't do
You
it.
can't repeat, nobody was there when the earth was put together, or we had to take back.
You are trying to impose your religious belief on all the students in the state of Missouri.
Well, if you're an atheist, then you are imposing your
No,
rules.
we are showing what the scientific community has accepted through their process.
And this
That's it.
is a process of how things are. I mean, you got to admit, things do change. Because we got to admit that stuff happens, and that is how it all happens. To what scale? Like I said, we cannot say in here. All we can do is say what we've observed, what we've tested, and it does say support, and it does say theory, and theories have changed. What is in the textbooks when I was in high school? That's what's wrong, and we've learned more since then. When I was in high school, it's proton, electron, and neutron, that's it. Sorry, kids, these days you gotta learn more parts than that. If you really go that deep, quarks and neutrinos, all this other stuff. It will change. More will happen down the road. We cannot bring that into this document. You don't really want that in this document, because then that will throw things, that'll force teachers to do things. As written, teachers are not forced to do things that they don't personally believe in.
Well,
And you don't want that to be part of the test. You don't want to be part of the test.
let's take a look at reality. In 2005, U.S. District Court, they came out and they said they had there was a little bit of a problem with a textbook. This is all they put on the textbook. There was no teaching about anything but evolution in classrooms. It said this textbook contains materials on evolution. Evolution is a theory and not a fact regarding living things. This material should be approached with an open mind, studied carefully, and critically considered. After the court's decision, the stickers had to be removed from Hobbes textbooks. It was appealed to the 11th Circuit, so there's, even to say that it's a theory, not a fact regarding living things, should be approached with an open mind, that did not pass the district.
And the reason it didn't pass was because that was founded on a religious basis. It had a religious agenda.
Our government is founded.
Okay, wait, you're not arguing with us. I didn't make this work. I didn't make this decision. I'm reading you what the law is.
So I have a question. So if you teach natural selection, which is mostly what is taught this time, if you teach natural selection as opposed to calling it evolution, what is left behind?
Evolution is a compilation of many different factors, not natural selection. Okay? Evolution is a compilation of the fossil record, modification of time, of the Earth's history. There's many things
mutations that have nothing actually to do with a mutation in humans. It's because these alleles, which are known as single nuclear polymorphisms, have dominated because they were able to survive better. They've already existed. So, for example, choosing just whatever trait, there's no mutation there. But because this section of species had the opportunity to survive better, And that's natural selection. but that's part of evolution with the fossil history, with mutations, with all these other factors, that's evolution.
A scientific theory has support from facts, has support from other theories, has support from other hypotheses, has support from several areas. And it needs to be, it has to be tested, and it has to be tested, and the data and the information has to be accepted by the scientific community. So the theory of evolution has several pieces in there, is what she's telling you. Its theories are not just all or nothing, and theories are an explanation. We're trying to explain what we see happening.
And I want to make it clear, a theory isn't tested and repeated. A theory is an explanation of a natural phenomenon. A law is a natural As phenomenon. long as it's follows a theory and not science.
You're using the word theory to mean hypothesis,
Yeah.
and they're two different things.
Those are two different That's things. the
No,
No.
theory is an explanation with
Explanation.
a lot of supported fact.
Yeah.
You're saying hypothesis meaning this is a prediction or a guess.
No, she just said. No. Let
But
me
you
finish.
misunderstood her
Let me
meaning.
finish.
She's meaning scientific theory.
A scientific theory, by definition, is an explanation of natural phenomena.
No, set theories change.
No, they do, because explanations change. I
learn
will
more.
learn more things. No.
Theory is not
fact.
fact.
No.
But that's what I'm saying, is there are
It takes
not to
thousands
teach the
and
theory and
thousands of
say
facts.
this is fact.
No one teaches it, and if they do, that's incorrect. No one.
Let's listen to Jack.
I hate to do this to you, but what's a fact? Only known to be true based upon interpretation of observations. For instance, it was a fact that the world was flat.
Yep.
And only a fool thought it was anything but that. And it was based upon our interpretation of our measurements and observations. Even our facts are subject to change. When we get better testing material, when we have better, robust ideas, I still think Heisenberg uncertainty principle is eventually going to be turned into the bad ruler explanation. But I'm probably in the minority by a significant number. The point of it is that we don't all read the observations the same, but as a collective group, we accept an explanation and an understanding of our measurements. And so a fact in and of itself is really just an understanding and acceptance of how to interpret the measurements that we've made. And as our measuring tools get better, our understanding of facts improve, and frequently what happens more often than not, which just happened in this room, is the usage of words. When my students come and tell me that a hypothesis is an educated guess, I do this really histrionic thing where they've insulted 40-something years of my life because I'm a scientist and I don't make a stupid guess. It's based upon my best explanation. And a theory tries to tell us why we saw what we saw. And as a good scientist, I will always have my mind open that somewhere there might be a different why to what I think I understand. And as far as repeatability goes, when they say repeatability, they don't mean necessarily that you can make the entire theory recreate or regenerate, because in some instances our theories are just too huge and it would take too much time and too much material. And so the best we can do is make a postulate based upon our observations in the data, and we can look at individual pieces of it. And there are pieces of the evolutionary theory that have been reproduced, that have supported predictions. Well, if we can ever find one of these, we should see one of those. And no, I can't pull off the top of my head because I didn't come prepared for that. Well, it has been supported. Does that mean that later we won't change when we understand it better? No. Hopefully any good scientist will accept and admit that we won't change. And that's what we're talking about here, is we're trying to put together standards when we talk about it. The current vernacular is the word evolution. We can change the word, but the meaning won't move. And the word theory is one that popular literature has abused to the point where scientists as a discipline are saying an entirely different thing than non-scientists are hearing.
There's the everyday use, and then there's the actual use. Those Listerine melts, that drives me nuts. It melts in your mouth. And so after we're done learning about stuff, I go, kids, Listerine melts. And when they don't melt, they dissolve. So I use it to point out to kids that there's everyday use of the words, and then there's the science use of the words. And we have to try and catch ourselves and make certain we're understanding we're using the science use of the word. Because everyday language just kills us.
Well, part of what the standard supposed to be written in a way that it doesn't understood, so sometimes it is a way
That's what I was actually going to bring up. If we look at what the examples of evidence are, examples of evidence could include similarities in DNA sequences. I think we can all agree that there's similarities in DNA between anatomical structures, order of appearance of structures. One of the suggestions here is fossil, they're talking about fossil evidence. If we
See, they're even leaving that out. They talk about, they left it out.
Yeah. I would, even if we don't go all the way back to creation, I would say that we could all agree that there is a point where things have evolved and changed, and we can see that even if we don't go all the way back to how we all got here. And I think this first one, at least, I think is kind of more along those lines. We have a common ancestry going back, there's a biological evolution won't happen. We see that. So,
what do you mean by common ancestry? What exactly does that mean to you?
It means that, and this goes back to the whole idea of my own personal beliefs that I feel like evolution could be a possible process of God creating the earth. But it just means that we're related to other species. And at some point, we could have broken off from something else. And to be honest, human evolution is something that I completely steer away from because that's more of a hot topic than anything else. But to be able to say, hey, look, if you just talk about Darwin's finches from the Galapagos Islands, there are two different birds that are so similar, and yet there are small things about them, and now they can't interbreed, so they're two different species. But if you look at their DNA and look at this, okay, they had a common ancestor at one time, but something happened, and for some reason they were split apart, even if it's just a geographical thing. And now they both adapted enough through natural selection. They adapted enough, and now they're two different species, and they can't interbreed. But at one point, they had a common ancestor.
And I'm good with that.
The beak is basically the difference in the beak and how big they were.
There's some good
I don't remember ever reading about they couldn't breed because they didn't want to have bigger beaks than the others.
But the definition of a species is that they only interbreed with themselves. But there's always exceptions. There's the whole horse and donkey, and
There's
the
also
lion and the
a
tiger.
definition.
There's
And see,
The definition is-
if common ancestry means, okay, the wolf and the coyote and the foxes and, dogs, they all came from a common ancestor of this ancient dog, like Richard. I'm completely on board with that. It just depends, I didn't know when you read that common ancestry, is that saying we all came from the land of
But we don't,
You know, that's
teachers do not take it all the way back to that level. If a student asks me about it, I'll say, you know what, if you really get into theory of evolution, you know, you're gonna get back to all of that, with the whole Big Bang Theory and, you know, evolution started from a single thing, but that's not what we're focusing on in here. We're focusing on, things are related, things change because of different circumstances, whether it be a food source or geographic. And so we're focusing on just things are related and things change.
Okay, then why don't we just define micro and macro evolution?
Because those are not actual things. Those are just how we clear. That's like saying biology is different than botany. Botany is biology.
Well, I think we all believe in micro evolution.
But that's not an
Basically,
actual scientific term. That is,
why?
no, it's like saying microbiology versus biology.
Microbiology is where.
Those are not
species
actual
change
terms.
into another.
Those are categories, not terms that you would study in
Okay,
terms
so
of
what's your
definition.
definition? What word do you use?
They're all evolution.
It's all evolution. You can talk about micro evolution versus macro evolution underneath the umbrella of evolution.
But those are just categories.
It's
Those
like
aren't definitions.
Microbiology, like she's saying, microbiology is a category of biology. Botany is a category of biology.
Well, evolution is the change over time. I mean, that's the easy definition, right?
Okay, so looking at that first standard,
Communicate the scientific information that common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence.
okay, and then looking at the things they intended to be included in that, the things in this standard that are intended to be included in that, if the standard said information that common ancestry and natural selection are supported, would that cover these things that is saying that they're in this standard?
But I don't think, no, because what it is saying, I hear exactly what you're saying. The problem with it is that evolution is a compilation of many different branches,
But just these
not
things,
natural
does
selection.
natural selection include just
But you're
these
trying to
things?
change the actual standard from what it intended to be.
Well, it's whatever we think.
No, it's science. It has to be what science intended to be.
Well, I'm just saying, we don't have to, we can change the standard. That's what.
We can change the standards. However, I'm going to defend
So, but what
using evolution.
part of this is not covered in natural selection? That's what it is.
What part of that is not covered in it?
Yeah, the things
Oh, those
that-
examples of
Yeah,
evidence?
the examples.
I use all of them. I use
Yeah,
all
but
of
she's
them.
trying to say, instead of saying that evolution is compiled of many different things,
No, I'm just saying.
you're trying to,
change
but
the
if you want to
term.
change it to the natural selection is compiled of different things. My suggestion is if we want to change something, I would change the suggested topics to include things such as the fossil record, the tectonic drift, those all support evolution as
So
well.
that gets into other.
But once again, you're trying to change, that is part of evolution.
Yeah, but I think they've chosen the ones, I think they chose those very carefully.
I think they
I think they
purposely
did,
chose
because
those
these are like topics you talk about in biology, like DNA. DNA is the thing you talk about, the kids can compare sequences. I know it's an activity where we compared a piece of the gene that codes for insulin, for bovine, for cows and humans, and there's some very few changes, but yet some of the changes are going to make a difference, because in biology, the triplet code, we have 64 triplet codes, and we have 20 amino acids, so some of the codes code the same amino acid. So we do that. I think they chose these very carefully because it stays away from the biggest argument in reading the people's comments is fossil record and things like that. This is keeping just the old biology piece there, and it's using it to help them understand what biology
Because it
is.
is the biology piece, what part of this is not, doesn't fall in the natural selection?
None of them. You're exactly right. However, by changing the
They
wording
don't.
to natural selection, you are then setting up a line of you shouldn't be teaching this right now because the standards don't let you teach that. And that is like, you're trying to eliminate evolution and hot button issues by changing the wording. You're trying to go through a different route to change the wording.
What is appropriate, there are going to be other areas where it's, like, you know,
But these are just
suggested.
suggested examples. There's no reason they couldn't have put those other examples.
Except that this is the area of
What if-
biology, not the science.
Can record being in there because there's a timeline showing that, like the fossil record would show, okay, this animal was this, you know, this long ago, and then this is what it is 100 years later, 1,000 years later.
Personally speaking, I don't have problems with the fossil record, but I think where you two are differing is, and what you might not understand, Shelley, is if you take out the word evolution, we have administrators who do not understand science. That's just all there is to it. They do not have a clue. And that doesn't mean they're bad administrators, that's just not their expertise.
There aren't very many science teachers that go into administration, period.
Because if you narrow the focus to natural selection, and it says just natural selection, and I'm in the classroom teaching, and I'm using the evolution word, you're setting me up as a teacher because I understand what all this means. You're setting me up as a teacher to potentially get in trouble because I'm not teaching what the standard says, because they're going to look for keywords and listen for keywords. Do you see what I'm saying? And that does go on
But there
in
are other
districts.
standards that do address some of those other things, but you told me what you teach with natural selection, so why can't you call it?
Well, then we should add it.
That's a piece of what we teach.
And that standard right there,
Absolutely.
what else is in there? that
Well,
is
that's our
natural
point.
selection?
We should be adding more to it. We should say the genetic variation due to genetic drift. Because that's.
Well, this is examples.
These are examples.
Where did you come up with evolution?
Yeah.
Because that encompasses other things other than the things that are listed.
Those are only suggestions.
Can I
And
make a
that's
suggestion?
And that's the other part of it. I'm gonna
Do it.
interrupt you, and then I'm gonna let you have it. You need to be, the examples could include.
Careful.
So they just offer some general suggestions there. They're not prescribing a list.
It could be more stuff. Go ahead, Kim.
Okay.
Do the microphone.
Looking back at the spreadsheet, the Massachusetts standard, the original Massachusetts, not the revised, the original has explained how evolution is demonstrated by evidence from the fossil record, comparative anatomy, genetics, molecular biology, and examples of natural selection.
Just using the word evolution, I like, and there are things about the revised and the NGSS that I like a little bit better, like the comparative anatomy. I like I like what NGSS and it looks like Massachusetts revision says about similarities in DNA sequence. I mean, they actually pinpoint it instead of just saying genetics. They pinpoint something a little bit more. Examples of natural selection. I mean, it's not that in there. But I like the word explain.
Yeah, I just worry, I mean, I know you can have a great classroom discussion and kids would have learned a lot, but, how do you capture that? And if it's a performance expectation, we have to have something to where teachers can say, okay, I understand how to capture their learning on this. That is going to be more than just a test.
And would that help the issue with, again, examples of natural selection, would it help the issue going back to the original Massachusetts wording in that?
For some reason,
Yeah, Mike.
South Carolina there, so I don't have
It's Massachusetts standard LS 5-1 or 5.1. Yeah, if the numbers don't, for Massachusetts, it doesn't match up.
So what are we going to do about this?
I think
Did you find it? Yeah, because I was looking at the LS4 as well, and it's not 4, it's LS5 for high school science for Massachusetts. I'm looking at it right now with what she sent me.
in there where y'all.
Yeah, I pulled it up on hers, that there's not
It
a
was
slide
more than
after
pretty good.
So,
Well, but you-
yeah, it's on hers,
And that's also.
that she sent out to us.
Revision process.
Yeah, it
You
says,
see where it's
it
over
says
again, so.
explain
Yeah.
how
So what
evolution
do
is
you-
demonstrated by evidence from the fossil record, comparative anatomy, genetics, molecular biology, and conclusion natural selection.
And then and then the revised says, communicate scientific information, which we already said we don't like that wording, that common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence. That's matches in DSS. This is the revised Massachusetts. That's including molecular, anatomical, and developmental similarities inherited from a common ancestor and homology, seen through fossils and documented laboratory and field observations. So that's,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't like
I don't like that.
the
They're focusing mostly on the fossil record when there's so much more.
And
That makes more sense
I don't mind
now.
if we leave the word communicate scientific information, I'm just saying, you know, we could add just maybe one more statement at the end that says communicate scientific information could include, oral debate.
Or examples of communication include.
Yeah.
Examples of communication include oral debate, written report.
Yeah, just something in there so they understand what we mean when we say communicate scientific information.
Now, did we change communicate on the others that we've talked about from the last meetings? Because communicate was in there too on those. We've come across the word before.
I think some of them we did.
I personally like to explain how evolution is demonstrated because it's
I would say explain rather than demonstrate. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't demonstrate.
Yeah, we're not demonstrating it.
Yeah.
Well, I supported
That is,
You could say, yeah, you could do a combination, explain how evolution is supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence, and then do that clarification statement and examples. Yeah.
So the fossil record is full of transitional species. It shows the progression of from one species to the next.
And then we also have gaps. There are lots of gaps that we're not sure.
And then knew it.
We're not sure why there are gaps or.
Okay, well, you've got a fish that was 230 million years old and then not have died out. It showed up in Africa, probably the last 30, 40 years. So, are you aware of that?
but are you aware that there are over 60 different examples of the transitional species
We know more
that we
about-
commonly know as the sea?
We know more about space than we know about the ocean. There's lots of things that
Yeah.
in the ocean that we don't
Well,
know.
even in the,
There are
We don't even know that,
Transitional
we don't even know the depth of
Transitional fossils.
20% of the ocean.
Where are they at? And where are they located?
Right now, Garden Science is being studied.
Okay, how many are there?
Like, there's over 60 of them, of the transitional human species, but we only hear about that.
Transitional human species?
Yes, I actually just had to do research on it for my class. I'd be more than happy to send you the paper if you don't read it.
Okay. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
That's my,
But that's not the point.
that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is, there's no question in science about evolution. That's not the question.
Well, I give you a whole list of there's 300 and some scientists that don't agree with Darwin.
So you're saying that in the scientific community, evolution is kind of up in the air?
Well, when you have the podium and you have control of what gets talked about, if you are not tenured, if you are working for tenure and you start bringing up some things that would counteract macro evolution, you will not get tenure. If you, Iowa State University, he was a scientist, Gonzalez, brought up that looking at the universe was young, and he came up for tenure. Well, he got tenure. So, I mean, when you control the pulpit, you know.
You're absolutely right, Dennis, because they didn't like what Galileo had to say either, but ultimately he was proven correct.
Sometimes posthumously, the scientists are proven correct.
So,
But you have to, and the reason he was canned is because you
had the articles, that you had peer reviews, doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, it doesn't, there's no question that evolution is the cornerstone of modern day life. That's not a question debated anywhere.
Microevolution is not the problem.
Microevolution is like saying,
Macroevolution is the
that's
problem.
like saying, I understand you can take one step, but I don't understand how you can walk it out.
The conversation we're having doesn't matter. Are we going to prepare Missouri high school students to be capable of passing the MCAT?
Not if we don't teach them.
Well,
Do we want them to have an honest start at being able to pass the national standardized exams that they need to pass in order to be doctors,
Not just
to be
that.
surgeons?
Are we going to put together a document that can go forward?
And on the other, will the science educators in Missouri accept it? Because
state
even
board
if you
does-
have.
the state
Not
board-
just the educators that have to accept it, doesn't necessarily.
You're right, but it's the state,
No.
but it's
And
the
then the
state board of
parent
education
has
that's
to
going to
accept
accept
Yes,
it.
That's why we're here. is
But
because we
Desi
have a lot
only
of
has to
parents
look at our recommendation, they do not have to accept it.
What is your goal or hope for this? I mean, to keep it out of the classrooms completely, that's not
no,
gonna
just
happen.
teach the controversy, just
We
teach both
can't.
sides.
Not in the sense of
By
the English
law.
classroom can, the speech classroom can, the history classroom can.
Up until the
You
50s.
can, to your own children.
Okay, then I have to send them as,
If it's a
like dogs
religious-
into the slaughter because.
No.
No, the
No.
teachers do not force this.
Not.
I do not
We
force
don't
this on my
force it,
students.
but it's the only thing that's being taught.
Because
In a
it's
science
designed.
classroom.
And the kids will bring it up. It
Well,
happens.
philosophy,
Yeah.
Thank
Just
you.
bring it up.
okay, if it can't be, being
They
a
do discuss
scientist.
this in the classroom.
They
If you have a
do.
good teacher, these things are discussed.
The kids will bring it up and the teacher will address it.
And the teacher will allow them to
Well,
have
the
the
students
conversation,
have
but
to
when it comes
address
to
to
the
bring
end,
it
they
up.
have to pass a
What?
test that answers the question.
Okay, you're making the student have to bring up all the stuff when it can be very easily brought up by the teacher and.
Okay.
Most of the things in the classroom are brought up by students. We can't bring forth anything anyway. The best lessons in my classroom were the kids say, well, what about or what if? I'm like, wow, that's a great question. Let's talk about that. That's when the best teaching occurs anyway because the students are interested and they're asking questions. When teachers sit up there and lecture about stuff, it's not going down their throat no matter what anyway.
And most of what they bring up is from their own personal experiences.
It's being taught in the home, it will probably be brought up in school.
Which is fine.
That's fine, it is.
I know my kids, like, well, just out, kind of off subject, but, like in the sex ed class, when they had sex ed from home. I know my kids had come home and, they taught one thing, but then if they came home, they're like, well, let's talk about this, and they started asking all kinds of questions and stuff, and I told them, I said, yes, this is what they teach with, legally answers. This is, these are the things that they talk about in school, but this is what we're about.
It's like,
And so,
it's like sending your child to allow them to go to church with somebody of different religion. You may allow it because they're different and you want them to be exposed to something different, but then you talk about it when they get home. That's part of being a good parent.
It's part of the children of the world. Keep them told to shut this.
You can't, yeah, you can't shut that. I mean, there are times, I'm certain with your daughters that come home, my son came home and we were having a conversation and he was like, oh my gosh, Mom, and talking about how his viewpoint on the topic was completely different than 90% of the college kids out there. And it's because of where he was taught at home. And I said, it's okay. It's okay to have different beliefs, and he understands that. He just doesn't agree with it. But it's not that he lets that prevent things. And we talk about that a great deal, that you're going to be out there in the world and your job is to get along and figure stuff out, and everybody's going to have different viewpoints on it. And you've got to listen to other people's viewpoints. But on this, we can't, I'm going to just be honest about this. I'm not going to shy away from it. I'm going to tell you evolution's got to be in the standards, period. I don't have any problems with the wording of this beyond just the concern to make certain that a young teacher understands that communicate scientific information can mean several different things. we can keep arguing about this, but I've tried to listen to this conversation and I don't see how we're getting anywhere with this. So we need to kind of come down to making a decision on how are we gonna handle this.
Personally,
You wanna hear what Charles Goldman said?
No.
It's his theory.
Once
No,
again,
it
it's
is
not
not.
his theory that's being taught
This
in
theory's
classrooms anymore.
Yeah. We don't teach
personally,
throwing.
we're
Based on-
gonna start taking motions.
I think we need to.
We need to, 'cause we
Okay.
have to go through.
I move to go with the original Massachusetts standards as a base.
Wait, hold on, let me bring it up.
I actually already have something written.
How old is you?
Oh, I do too.
Oh.
I've got my spreadsheet going too.
Okay, so let's
Did you use that as a base as my motion?
I did use it as a base.
Let's hear what our options are.
Okay, so I moved. I moved Kim just right out of the way. I moved that it reads, explain how evolution is supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence, and then include the clarification statement of NGSS. Emphasis is on a conceptual understanding of the role of each line of evidence. Each line of evidence has relating to common ancestry and biological evolution. Examples of evidence could include similarities in DNA sequences, anatomical structures, and order of appearance of structures in embryological
Are
design.
you keeping it as a clarification statement or putting it in as a standard itself?
Keeping that clarification statement. So rewording the NGSS so it looks a little bit more like Massachusetts. It just says explain how evolution is supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence.
Can you adjust the statement a little bit?
Emphasis, it's the same as NGSS.
No, the original statement.
Oh, okay. Original NGSS standard?
No, what you're suggesting.
Explain how evolution is supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence.
I would add the word biological
So you're taking
evidence.
See, what I have is explain how common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of
Okay.
empirical evidence.
And unfortunately, I like to explain this and I like to create it.
I do too. So
Yeah,
instead
that
of
makes sense.
explain how common
Should we-
ancestry and
Should we,
biological evolution.
should we put that in the thesaurus and see if we can come up with a
Yeah,
better
let's
word?
find a different word. I just don't like the word explain.
Oh, I don't like the word. How about discuss? Because that can be very.
Well, remember, this has to be tested.
This has to be, yeah, this is a performance
How about
expectation.
provide examples?
Reveal.
What?
Analyze.
You get too many words.
Analyze. Describe.
You're on the source, I think.
I'm on thesaurus.
Where's my
Yeah.
Glenn?
So how about,
Bloom's taxonomy is what you need.
Communicator, explain because of Bloom's taxonomy.
I know. That's why I'm like, where's my?
how about we have analyze
What
scientific information that common ancestry and biological.
And
Analyze
if you
science.
analyze, you come back to what Dennis and
Yeah. Because then you're
Shelley,
not,
thank you, Shelley, I'm sorry.
I don't see how analyze though is not.
Yeah,
That's not the same.
No.
no, that's not what they're
According to thesaurus.com, it says it's okay, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
not
well-
according to Bloom's taxonomy.
Alright, where's my internet?
Explain.
Explain. Is that something that can you control the
That's all what your blood pressure is,
I'll just put on my.
Well, the dial's on 85, so I'm gonna say no.
It's 85 in here, and
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that, unless that's Kelvin,
And we're in a basement.
and then it's not quite cold enough.
Is there a reason why you prefer to have multiple lines of empirical evidence rather than spelling it out when it comes to fossil records?
See,
I would tell
Okay.
you, the solution for me is just to add one more little sentence at the end that says examples of communicate scientific information could include, and just give a couple examples of media.
So you're saying leave
You can leave it.
NGSS, but then.
But I
everything.
alright, to be honest, I actually really like, alright, this is what I said, explain how common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence, including molecular, anatomical, developmental similarities, well, I guess you could say comparative. The fossil record, I don't know,
So you could say, Debbie, I know you got something on your mind.
What's wrong with what's there? We're really beating the bush, and how much are you really changing it?
It needs to stop, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're beating this to death, and you're really starting to nitpick here.
I
What's
just
wrong
want to
with it?
add one more sentence.
What
That's it.
communicate means.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
so are you,
A little
would you like to move that is what we
I
zero
will
out?
move that we accept the standard with the addition of one sentence that explains, that offers examples of what communicate scientific information could mean.
Is that in the clarification statement?
Yeah, just a
In the
clarification.
clarification statement.
Just like it has examples of evidence could include, we have examples of communicate scientific information could include oral, written.
What is it today? What is it called for communicate?
I have no problem with the word communicate, I just thinking that a young teacher needs just a couple examples so they read this and they go, oh, okay, and they realize it doesn't have to be a written
It
report.
doesn't have to be lit.
So what we
It doesn't
would
have to
say,
be
communicate can include.
Surely, people, come on.
Written report,
Kids and teachers are gonna be
oral discussion. Have you met some of them?
Oh, I met some old teachers that don't know either. They're the ones who are more stuck in the rut. The younger ones know more than the older ones who know how to
I
do
have
stuff.
an age on me.
The younger ones will be like, tweet out.
Yeah. Well, Instagram
Well,
this.
your favorite scientist.
But that's what they're encouraging. They, oh, you should see it, it's awful.
What would be the hashtag for ... I've seen that assignment before, actually.
Yeah, they're young.
Yeah.
What is the hashtag for?
Actually, my kids had to write a survival story, and they had to, and one of the options could be tweet. What was going on?
Look at this verbal and there's written communication. Come on, they've got to know that.
No,
I think
no.
these are nitpicking that too. They're nitpicking everything.
If it makes you feel any better, I read ahead and second one, I like it. So.
You do?
I think the second one is actually.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we
Let's go on the
have,
first one.
all right, so we have a movement for keeping this but adding a communication clarification. Do we have anybody to second that?
Can I read the whole thing and put it all together?
Sure.
Okay. Communicate scientific information that common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence. Clarification statement. Communication could mean written report, oral discussion, etc. And examples of evidence can include evidence from the fossil record, comparative anatomy, genetics, molecular biology, and examples of normal selection.
You add the cost.
Okay. I took it from this.
Which is,
You wanna?
That's not.
You did this, we were leaving.
Oh, I
did
must
this
have copied
as
it
was.
from, it was, sorry.
Massachusetts.
Which one, all right.
I'm
who's
just,
copied
my
that?
concern was, we've already got two sentences under clarification statement. How big is this?
Well, she took out one of
If
them.
it's a fact, why are we putting all these clarifications there?
Well,
For
okay, the
assessment
clarification
purposes, how
statement
far
is,
can we assess?
yeah, how far the assessment is. It's not, we're not clarifying.
Why do you need?
We've done it on, limits the scope, so the teachers know you don't have to go
We could
so
spend-
deep.
We could spend an entire year teaching evolution if we really wanted to. This is saying, keep it at this level.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to go super deep, just keep it at this level.
That's what they have been all other standards we discussed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all the
this
other
is
clarification
go to
statements have done the
such
same
Well,
thing.
some of these embryos, that was drawings or fraudulent, because they really don't tell the stages.
Copy and paste just that whole thing, and then the very end, and.
You know, we're trying to prove these things that we're using as examples, and they all got
I'm not
problems.
proving anything, Dennis.
You're not trying to prove something?
No.
Science only disproves.
It doesn't say for.
Everybody has their biases. I don't care if you're the best science in the world, you'll always have your biases. You should always know what your strong points on any issue, and you should know your weak points. And if you're not willing to give the information, you know, most people like to give their strong points, but they never want to give their weak points. To be a true scientist, you need to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we need to do is give, you know, here's the weak points on evolution.
We can't do that with every standard. I mean, all standards can have those. We can't do that.
Do have those.
They all have those. We can't specify.
Every standard has one, so what's gonna happen in the classroom if you take, the world is round, the world is flat, we're gonna start arguing with that one? There is a society, with a flat earth society, so
Still,
should we present that argument also? Yes, you could, but when would you get done with the 8th grade?
Well, I don't think you're gonna have a whole lot of people that are gonna be on one side of that.
There's quite a few of them.
The
A number in the
evolution
millions.
debates, you're gonna have people on the other
There's no
side.
evolution debate in science. There's no
Macroevolution, there is a debate.
That is not.
I make a motion, I make a motion.
She's gonna remit and then we can get moving on this one. There's a
We're kind of,
motion on the
yeah,
table.
the motion's on the table, the discussion is, as soon as we get this over, we can do one last go through and then.
Alright, it's
we'll go
exactly the NGSS, the only thing I added was communicate could mean written report, oral discussion, etc. That's all I added, is the NGSS. Yeah.
Okay, so just so we're all on the same page, read the whole thing as written, so that we know exactly
Communicate
what we're saying.
scientific information that common ancestry and biological evolution are supported by multiple lines of empirical evidence. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on a conceptual understanding of the role each line of evolution has relating to common ancestry and biological evolution. Examples of evidence could include similarities in DNA sequences, anatomical structure, and order of appearance of structures in embryological development. Communicate could mean written report, oral discussion, etc.
Okay. So we have a movement, we have a motion to.
I second.
Second?
Second.
Okay, sounds like we need to vote then. All right. Right here. We're just gonna go around the room. Debbie, as written, yea, nay.
As read.
As read.
Yeah.
Okay. Katie, as written, yea, nay.
Yay.
Susan?
Yay.
Frank? Cody? Okay. Jack?
Yes.
Dennis?
Maybe.
Annette? Kim?
Clarification statement, if you have understanding of the role of each line of evidence or evolution in your.
Each line of
At
evidence.
each line of evidence.
Multiple lines of
Evidence, okay.
Each line, yeah, as relating to common ancestry and biological evolution.
Okay, and
Yeah.
when I read it, I thought you said evolution, not evidence is really evolution. I honestly don't know.
Yes, me too, but I'll live it if it gets this over with.
You can also abstain if you don't.
I'll abstain on this, I honestly.
Okay. Shelley? Patricia? Yes. All right, that is 7 to, without me voting, even if I abstain, that's 7 to 2. So it was written. Or as read. As read.
Can we take a break? I go to the
Yeah, we
bathroom.
need a potty break.
We need a potty break and move the car over.
Remove the car?
Yeah, I parked in a 2-hour parking
Oh, I
spot.
parked in the garage.
Are they? Do they
No,
know
that,
that
no,
on
I
Saturday?
asked him, he said they're not doing it today. Yeah.
They don't do it?
Yeah, I asked him, I said, I'm from a small town and on Saturdays, they didn't do parking or anything, is that true here? And he said, yes.
I mean, don't
Because
jump on
I'm
the garage
parking the
doors.
2
I
hours.
figure if they give us a parking ticket, I'm gonna send it on to Jesse.
Okay, so I still need
So
to.
you parked in 2 hours too?
I parked just down.
Oh,
the
garage.
Take your hand.
That was smart.
I saw you parking in the garage today, because you were walking, I was driving up.
Oh, really?
You walked down the street over
Well, it's not rude, I kind of.
My last letter was sent, so I told him that we're on a committee together, and I haven't heard back from him, so. He, I mean, you know, like, I'm pretty far down on the priority list. for
Yeah,
writing.
yeah, you being amped and all.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm the crazy aunt.
Oh, I see. I
So
understand.
he couldn't make that the crazy aunt. He should know me. I'm the crazy aunt.
Well, good. Definitely tell him I said hello.
I will.
I have her next week in class.
Oh, fun. That's really
You
fun.
know, it's a small world once you really get out in it, you know. It's amazing how small it is. I was gonna tell Shelley, I drove through Lone Jack back in April. I was like, oh, hi Shelley!
I drove through Lone Jack on my way here. So I was like, so this is Lone Jack. Okay. I was like, where are all these places?
Yeah, had been up in Overland Park in April, and I was like, oh, okay, here's Lone Jack. I've driven through it before, but that was the first first time I paid attention to the fact that it was loan jack. Just so I can kind of, maybe I can do some explanation, do you want to go through the other life science ones and tell me what you were, if they're like the ones you had questions on? But maybe, because I literally, these were my notes, and I just scanned them and sent them to Kim.
Let's start with the first one.
Okay.
Sorry,
I have a working break.
No, that's okay.
Okay, construct an explanation based on evidence. Oh wait, we wanted to do Massachusetts revised. And Massachusetts revised states, explain that genes are regions in the DNA that code for proteins, which carry out essential functions of life. Construct a model of transcription and translation to explain the role of DNA and RNA, including the instructions for polypeptides, which make up proteins. Explain that 4 different classes of proteins regulate and carry out the essential functions of life. Okay, because the recommendations that you take out clarification statement entirely, so I'm not even going to read that. But it also wants to take out the 4 classes of proteins, and that is huge.
But that doesn't mean that they won't teach it anyway to teach the others.
I think these are written as being possible testable
Okay.
things. So if I remember correctly, we took that out as being not necessarily something that was testable.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because whatever we write as a standard is supposed to be your bare minimum that we're teaching in the classroom, but it's also
So we don't
what's
want, so
testable.
my understanding then is that we don't want students to know that enzymes are proteins. But I think that's like a business question, that's why I'm like,
Yeah, but remember, this is for all students.
Yeah.
All levels, and enzymes are proteins. That's not a multiple choice question, not a core understanding type. You know what I mean?
I think the question, when we went through this, the 4 classes of proteins there, I think we took that out because in a general biology class, the majority of the time we just talk about, and we do talk about proteins and we talk about what enzymes are. And the hormones, I'll have to look here. Hold on, let me go back and look. Oh, you know what? I think it was. I think it was. Now I'm having a hard time remembering.
Invincible. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the woman is not.
and then I also just think it's kind of confusing the transcription and
I almost thought it was really, and then I thought, in case it's raining, I got like my rain jacket. So I just got that comfortable and warm.
I just feel like it's just a lot.
That's just a humidifier, not a heater.
He's like, I'm leaving, he's going back home.
But that, no, but I'm saying,
Well, then, yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not even remembering why it says no clarification statement.
Well, then see, this
And
is
then we
why
wrote
I-
clarification statement, transcription, translation versus biochemistry.
I don't understand
I
that.
don't remember why we wrote that. It's been too long and
We might need to.
well, my last few months have been ultra busy, so I didn't even look at this once I got home, so I don't remember what my notes were, so.
I just didn't understand it.
I started my master's degree in January.
How was prom?
Prom was amazing. So,
It wasn't your favorite thing, though.
You're the prom coordinator. I was gonna say, I did not have that opinion on my prom.
No, it was amazing. I'm the prom coordinator, so I thought it was great. So I started my master's degree, prom coordinator. We did a huge science fair capstone thing that we had never done before. On top of just part of my master's, part of my research project for my master's is also related to a complete change in our advisory intervention structure, and I'm on that team as well. So yeah, this got sent down in February, and I didn't look at it again until I scanned it to send it to him. So I don't remember what my notes were. So you know what? Some of these I'm sure I'll look at and remember and go, oh yeah, okay. But that one I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. So
I was appointed like the after.
yeah, I'm wanting to say it was more along the lines of not saying that they don't know that it's, but just based on the way it was written, that didn't seem like it fit in with that location. That's the best I got for you right now. Dennis and Shelley were in that group with me, along with Rodney, and he's not here today, but maybe when we start looking at those, maybe they can remember something that I'm not remembering.
Okay.
So maybe this isn't a good idea to look at right now. I just thought I'd look and see if I could answer some questions, but.
All right, ready for order?
Are we all back here? Are we all back? We're all back. Okay, so let me go back. Okay, so at 5-2. 4-2, sorry, it's kind of written here. 4-2.
Construct an explanation based on evidence that the process of evolution primarily results from 4 factors. 1. Potential for a species to increase in number. 2. The heritable genetic variation of individuals in a species due to mutation and sexual reproduction. 3. Competition for limited resources. And 4. The proliferation of those organisms that are better able to survive and produce in the environment.
Mutation, increase information when you have a mutation, or
You can.
lose information?
Or just change it.
Or just change it.
And sometimes you can have a mutation and nothing happens.
Or different mutations, based,
Positive
that would
and
probably, the organism or the embryo probably dies from the mutation.
If it's too severe.
It can also be a chromosomal, which is different from like a mutation.
Okay, how many of the mutations are positive and how many are negative?
We
No way
can't,
you can
there's
say.
no way
Nobody
that we can
does.
do that.
How
There's
simple.
no scientific evidence.
To know a number, no. There's no scientific evidence to know a number, but
If a mutation occurs and you figure out where it is in the gene sequence, you can see what the effect is and you know if it's good or bad, but
It also
until
depends
after
on
you
the
don't know.
cell.
In the environment.
And the environment, like you have a mutation right now, we all know every single one of us.
Bad, some people
And that's it. That's just an extra, it's just an extra chromosome, you know?
So the genetic code is a book of information about how to produce some product or some biological.
Protein.
A protein, it's called making proteins.
But it's only coded for, that's it.
So,
Protein.
through protein.
They're the machinery that runs it. If it's not made of protein, the proteins are the machinery that runs the process.
So,
technically cancer is a mutation.
Yeah, some of them are.
so that's not a good.
No.
That's not a good mutation.
And so we had discussion of what's a good mutation.
Good for who?
Anything that allowed, it's good from the species standpoint. We had that discussion, we were talking about the bacteria. Bacteria are becoming antibiotic resistant. Is that good for us? Absolutely not. Is it good for the bacteria? Yes.
The ones that are becoming.
The ones that are becoming antibiotic resistant, yes. So being good is a subjective term, but in terms of positive mutation, anything that would allow an organism to survive would be considered survive and reproduce would be considered a positive effect from a mutation. Not necessarily from our viewpoint, because I don't want antibiotic-resistant bacteria, but because it's from the bacteria viewpoint, it's now allowed to survive and reproduce, so therefore, it's a positive mutation, it helps them.
What if you take the antibiotics away, what happens to the bacteria, the strength of bacteria?
Are you saying that, because I read the article you sent me, but are you saying that it's only because the antibiotic was introduced that this mutation occurred?
Well, there's already mutated bacteria in the sample
Yeah.
when the antibiotics was put on.
Correct.
And so what happens is that the mutated bacteria basically wasn't affected by it.
Correct.
So it took over the
Culture.
it grew and multiplied.
Correct.
Okay. What happens when you take the antibiotic out? Most of these mutations, they only work under a severe environmental factor.
No, they can happen. They can happen at any time. It's just we don't know about them because, you know, there could have been antibiotic-resistant bacteria, you know, back in the 1800s, but we didn't have the antibiotics to realize that they were resistant.
You also have to understand that antibiotics doesn't necessarily mean a pill. Antibiotics can be anything. It can be
Anything
another
that's called harsh,
protein.
an antibiotic is not found in nature.
Yes, they are.
The first one was penicillin.
That's
from
how
early
they
on.
Right, but they're not in the concentration.
Oh, no, they are. They absolutely are.
Okay.
That's how we find them and locate them.
Penicillin comes from mold.
Reproduce all on its own without any inhibitors of
Okay. Mutation, is that bacteria lost information so that it's not affected by the antibiotic?
Actually, the way that works, if you really want to know, it's called conjugation. And so the way that this whole process works is that you have a plasmid, which is a circular ring of DNA. They don't have the same type of DNA as multicellular eukaryotes, which are what you and I are. And so what they actually are able to do, regardless if the antibiotic is present or not, their pili, which are these little tiny structures on the outside of the cell capsule, are able to connect and transmit genetic information from one bacteria to another through a process known as conjugation, which is very similar to the conjugal word we use in sexual reproduction. And by doing this, that circular DNA is copied and transferred from one bacteria to another, and that DNA is able to then be used by another bacteria. And so it can actually spread the genetic information from one little cell to another. And I do a lab every year with my seniors in which we demonstrate this, and we create bacteria by introducing a plasmid into the environment. And plasmids don't have to be introduced only through conjugation. It's really cool. You can actually have dead bacteria, and another bacteria can pick up its genetic DNA and then become resistant to whatever that DNA factor is. That's technically a mutation. They actually absorb DNA. It's kind of cool. So all of these
bacteria changes into some other new life form?
no, you're not
the
understanding
genetic
the
A mutation does not make a new life form. No. One mutation does not.
Still a bacteria.
It's still bacteria, and it's still
It's
the
the
same
same species.
And it's still the same species, it just has some new genetic information.
Something
Because once again, you're coming to this concept that a species is something that can reproduce with something else. Well, if something is an asexual being, how can you apply the same definition of species? You can't, which is another problem with science. You can't just apply one term to everything and then make arguments based off those explanations. So it's like trying to take one example that people don't fully understand entirely and use it to justify something else. And that would be completely inappropriate, for lack of a better word, to try to do that. You can't.
I have a separate question about this one, just because I want to just amend the same on the number one part, I think the other two, it says, how does the potential for a species to increase in number, how is that add to every, I'm trying to understand that.
Your, the word is like.
If the environment only allows for just that one to survive, then how is it going to reproduce?
Well, you just give it a first one.
Well, it says it's a process of evolution, so I'm wondering how does that change, just the number one on there, having, for the potential for species to increase in number, how does that cause it to change?
Fitness, that's the word I was looking for, fitness.
Fitness, yeah.
Your fitness is, sorry.
Yeah, here's the deal too. Evolution is not done by an individual organism. It's by a species over a long period of time. So if the species cannot increase in number, you cannot reproduce and go forth, you don't have evolution.
Okay, so it's just saying to be able to go from one to be able to reproduce. Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
envisioning, okay, there are five, does it have the ability to?
No, it just means it has the ability to pass on its genetic information.
Genetic information. Otherwise, you're not going to, because it's not a one and done. It's not done by an individual organism.
So if I read that as number one, the potential for a species to reproduce, would that be the same understanding?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but see, but an organism reproduces, not a species. I mean, that is technically, it's vernacular.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, increase the number, that means species is growing. Or it's continuing from generation to
Increase in
generation.
population
Yeah.
too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, because your fitness, this is one of the things I explained, your fitness is measured by your ability to, survive to adulthood to reproduce, whereas we think of survival of the fittest as being the biggest and strongest. Well,
I know.
the biggest and strongest doesn't always survive.
No.
So my son has, my youngest, one of the graduates now, has neurofibromatosis, and it's a dominant, it's a mutation, and it affects all of his nerve cells, and it's a dominant mutation. So that means there's 50% chance that his children will have it from him. And so what that means to him is he's got to make a decision on whether or not he chooses to reproduce because he stands that chance. The other problem with this disease is even though he's had it mild compared to some with this disease, there's no guarantee his children will have it mild. They could have it 10 times worse. So you're looking at a situation with him, the potential for the species to increase in number. He has potential to produce more children and more people with this mutation and pass it on, or he can choose not to. That's kind of the difference between like nature versus humans, because humans can make some decisions.
And so they're saying that is a factor that determines whether that moving forward in time will change.
Yeah, population.
The population.
Yeah, because if he reproduces, if he has kids and they carry it, then obviously the population as a whole can carry that gene and have a disorder will increase.
Not all mutations are recessive, and some are diseases, or genetic diseases are dominant gene. Not that many people has. I mean, having 6 fingers is a dominant gene. How many to the population has 6 fingers?
Huntington's is a prime example of that. There's
dominant does not mean most common.
the symptoms for Huntington's doesn't usually start until you're 30 years old. So prior to that, you usually already had a child. Well, Huntington's disease is a dominant, and it's a death sentence. Once the symptoms start, you get about 10 years and then you're dead. So you've already had your kids, and then you find out that you had Huntington's. Well, those kids now with today's abilities have to make a decision. Do they decide to wing it and go ahead and live their life? Do they get the test? And that brings into all those ethical concerns, because that's how, because of that, that's how that disease has been allowed to progress and keep going in nature, is because people, quite frankly, didn't realize they had it until they already had kids. And the kids don't know until they're 30, and they're already having kids.
Most doctors won't ethically test children to give them a death sentence or anything.
Exactly. So that's how it's possible for a dominant mutation to keep.
I got it, I just determined that I understood it.
Well, that's how I read it.
I would say conditions is what genetic change.
But it can be.
Good genetic change comes about. If you've lost information, the reason that
You
your
don't
son,
always lose
Sometimes you just change it, you don't lose it, you just change it.
so he's not producing some element or some.
What the neurofibromatosis does is it affects all your nerve cells in your body and has the potential to grow tumors, lots of tumors.
So it doesn't have a mechanism.
Or maybe a mechanism that makes them.
Okay, so it's a loss of information. That is a loss of information.
Not necessarily, it
Actually,
can be.
it's a code that's,
Code that
got a
does-
code for extra proteins you don't need.
Yeah.
Or in some of these things, it's not a loss or gain of information, but a gene is turned off or turned on. You know, the information's there, it's just because of the way your body's reading your genetic code,
And the sequence of amino acids is
it
slightly
gets turned
different.
off or turned on.
Yeah. Cancers are two different ways, either the accelerator gets hit or there's no break.
Sickle cell anemia. Individuals who have what we call sickle cell trait, not sickle cell disease, actually have a greater resistance to malaria. And so individuals, and highly populated where mosquitoes that transmit malaria, if they have sickle cell trait, they can be resistant.
Okay, what happens to, when they have sickle cell anemia, what happens?
No, if you
when they
have
get
trait,
older?
you don't have anemia, because it is a recessive disease. So by having just one of the two alleles, the it's called it's HBS, and the HBS is the hemoglobin for the sickle cell. If you just have one, because it's a multifactorial gene, meaning that you have multiple genes that go into the disease. So they have one copy of it, they actually have a greater resistance to it.
If you change it just slightly, and I'm not thinking of the disease, the illness that can kill them, it just changes enough to actually do benefit because then malaria doesn't attack.
Because they actually produce both types of cells.
So when you have both, what's your symptoms? What's your prognosis?
Typically nothing. Not always, but typically nothing.
You've got both of the genes. your
Oh, if you have both of
prognosis
those
is not
genes,
very
then
good.
you need to just have medical treatment to keep your body from going into a sickle cell anemia state or different in the extremities. No, you don't want to have it, but if you just have one copy, it's quite beneficial. Not necessarily.
So,
So do we have any
you make a
offers?
statement that mutations normally do not produce good, it's not an improvement.
We never
That's
say
an
that.
assumption.
That's an assumption, that's not something we teach, that, no, there's good and there's bad, and there's indifferent.
One of those scientists said that people come to basically none, but it leaves it open a little bit. Might see.
We can't answer all of those questions because we don't have the history record of all the mutations that can be ever.
When something goes wrong with somebody, we go looking for what the cause is. When something's great and improved, we don't always go looking for the cause of it.
Well, the scientist that did the
One scientist did what?
okay, the one is the scientist that did the GMOs that shot the gene in to change the soybeans so they were resistant to Roundup herbicide.
Okay.
Basically, wrote this about the genetic aptitude. And what he's saying is basically all mutations are negative. He
No.
left himself open a little bit to the corner.
Is that the
He
only
said most of them, like you said, most of them are neutral and don't show up because the genes are being mixed around, and it's not until you have the whole body of the organism to select from that there can be no selection.
Is that gonna source you enough for that?
You wanna read the book or?
No, because I don't buy that. No.
Here's the book.
What is the research? Is it full of research or is it his opinion?
Cornell University.
That doesn't matter. No, I mean, does he cite research or is he just telling his opinion on everything?
I imagine he's a researcher, if he's done injected DNA into plant material, I guess he's
Okay,
a scientist.
can I ask, what is the problem with this statement?
With the standard.
It's the word mutation.
The word mutation is a problem.
Yes.
Is this something that is, I think, I'm gonna move that we vote on this, to use it or not, because it is accepted in the scientific community, and to take it out would be, once again, not allowing students who are going to become doctors to have the opportunity to know a vital piece of information.
Well, it didn't even matter if students who
Yeah.
become doctors.
It's just in general, farmers. Farmers need to know
Cancer
this
in
stuff.
general. I mean, we can't not teach that.
I'm a farmer.
I know.
I'm a rancher, and as far as evolution, if it's microevolution, I don't need to know it. Macroevolution, we can disagree on it. I agree with microevolution. I don't agree with macroevolution.
Well, what's the problem with mutation though in this standard? Dad?
And I agree with you. As a farmer, you don't need to know the difference between it. I don't have a crystal ball in the classroom to tell me what these people are going to be when they become adults. And I have to prepare them for all extenuating circumstances. And to restrict myself to just what I think they might be is a disservice. And in reality, what you're talking about is the healthy conversation that should occur in a classroom, and the standard that you're upset with isn't really going to change what's happening in the classroom. But we are at least going to have the test written, and hopefully the performance is written in a fashion that will support our students being capable of moving forward. We're not going to debate in this room and convince either side to move from where we're at. And I don't think that's really what we need to be sitting and doing.
Did you say all mutations are positive?
We didn't say
We're
that.
not saying that.
We're not saying that.
It doesn't say that they're all positive, it doesn't say they're all negative, it just says that mutations happen.
That genetic variation of individuals in a species due to mutation and sexual reproduction.
Will cause change.
It doesn't say for good or for bad.
It just says that
Cause
there's
change.
variation. I mean, how else do we get, well, it just,
That's all it says.
But that's the mechanism which would change these groups.
Absolutely not.
It
This
does
statement
not.
says
It
it
doesn't
has
have
to
to
be
be
Species. It
all
could just
of
be
it.
a little thing. Fruit flies, we see it all the time in fruit flies. It's a genetic change that changes their eye color. It's a mutation that changes our eye colors. It doesn't have to produce a new species. It could just change one little thing about a phenotypic trait, which is the trait that we
But
see.
mutations don't change one organism into another.
Not from one single mutation, and no, and
And not in
nobody's
one
teaching
generation,
that, and
not
not
in
in
one
one generation.
generation.
I'm not gonna have a major mutation in my eggs and all of a sudden produce a puppy. It's not gonna happen from one generation to the next.
Your
I
children
would have
just
really
support
liked
Claire.
my children have asked for a pony before, but it's not happening. I've had 5 human children. It's just, what we're saying though is, you know, mutation happens, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and most of the time it just affects something about the individual itself, and that could possibly get passed on. We're not saying that just because I mutate, something happens in my mutation.
Race as a whole, are we increasing genetic information, are we getting better, or are we kind of fallen
We can't use
We
that
don't know.
question.
Huh?
We can't.
Because sexual reproduction is a constant mixing of genetic information. You know, the child that Jack and I have could have, you know.
I've got other things.
all sorts of wonderful things about them, whereas, you know, I could have the child with you or with Frank or something like that, and because our mixing of genetic information is different, it's gonna be different.
It's just like your daughters. Are
See,
your
I
daughters identical?
understand the mixing. I've read dabble in selecting certain traits. I understand this. The general human population, are we getting better genetically or worse?
Well, how do we find it?
What's better?
What's better?
And the environment's changing around us too.
I'm gonna tell you with the
less
education and
cancer,
everything.
But once again,
less,
those are multifactorial.
And
issues.
okay, your cancer thing, sir. Cancer was probably just as prevalent years ago, except people died from other stuff first. We conquered the other stuff, now we're living long enough to get cancer, unfortunately.
You know, that people just
I'm gonna tell you with, and
Yeah,
then one and
it's dying
everything,
from
the world
consumption.
better, I put my son in it. So,
Pardon?
even with the NF, the world is a better place with my son.
Yeah,
I
so.
agree. It's
Yeah.
same thing I told you about my daughter. I lost a daughter at 2 months old because she had a genetic condition. She had trisomy 18.
Oh my God.
You can't tell me that, sure, that mutation was bad for her. That's 2 months of my life. Wouldn't trade it for anything. But, so you're debating something about one word saying, and that was the one thing I did not agree with on your article. It made it seem as though all of us as science teachers, all we teach is positive mutation. No, we teach mutation. Mutation is a change. Something happens. It can be negative, and quite a lot of the time it is negative. It can be neutral. It can be positive. There's all sorts of possibilities, and that is what we teach.
That depends on the viewpoint.
Yes.
And I make a motion that we accept this standard as written.
Okay. We'll vote. All right. Debbie?
Yay.
Katie?
Yay.
Susan?
Yes.
Frank? Tony? Jack?
Yes.
Dennis? Annette?
Yes.
Kim? Shelley? Patricia? Yes. Yes. All right, that's a 10 to 1. It stays as written. Okay, number 3.
Apply concepts of statistics and probability to support explanations that organisms with advantageous heritable traits tend to increase in proportion to organisms lacking this trait. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on analyzing shifts in numerical distribution of traits and using these shifts as evidence to support explanation. Assessment boundary is limited to basic statistical and graphical analysis. Assessment does not include allele frequency calculations.
Oh,
yeah.
So there are fabulous applications for that.
Okay, can you explain that in
It's saying that if I have an advantageous trait that allows me to survive better in my environment, I am able to pass it on to my offspring.
More likely to survive.
I'm more likely to survive and more likely to reproduce because my traits enable me to survive in that environment.
Well, science teachers know what
Science
this means.
teachers
They
know
know
what this
exactly
means.
what this
I do
means.
have a question on this one. I had a note, something about combining the middle school, 4-2 with this, and I don't know if that's something when we went through middle school, is that something we said we
I'm looking
To
at.
come to the high school meeting?
We threw those, yeah,
So we
we
may
took
wanna-
those from middle school
That's
and
right.
put
We
in
may
high
wanna
school.
look at that and make
But I
sure
think
that
it'll come up
when we-
here, cause, yeah.
No, you're right, you're right.
I think what you're looking at with the middle school 4-2 is that's gonna be like the lower concept that feeds into this.
No, but we're no longer teaching it in middle school, it
But-
needs to be moved
Yeah,
up
we
to
moved it.
high school.
Yeah, because it's
but
more
the-
high school level, understand it.
But that's my point, it's when we're doing this, yeah, maybe we can meld it, but it may not hurt to have that one and this one both in there because one feeds into the next. You
Okay,
see
well,
what
I
I'm
was just gonna say, maybe we should look at the wording of that and make
I
sure
have
that
that,
whatever we come up with.
I have that here,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
do.
middle school, and you have 4-2. And I have it actually combined with 4-3 in my notes here. So it says apply scientific ideas to construct an explanation for the anatomical similarities and differences among modern organisms and between modern and fossil organisms to infer evolutionary relationships. And analyze displays of pictorial data to compare patterns of similarities in the embryological development across multiple species to identify relationships not evident in the fully formed anatomy. I don't see as though those actually relate to 4-3 very well.
That's middle school?
That's middle school.
I think
Jeez.
4-3.
That's why we moved it back.
Yeah.
That's
why we said, oh, let's put this in high school.
Yeah, because Peter's like bingo, I can spend a whole quarter on 4-3 in the middle school, and the kids still be like,
Yeah, I agree.
So,
But I don't see how those would merge with this.
No.
I was
No,
just
they
gonna
don't.
say, so is that going to be a separate standard, or is that something?
I
like that standard at all.
I don't either.
The middle school one that I just read.
Yeah, I think we can only put it anywhere, we can stick it out.
Well,
I think
I think
feeds into 4-3.
4-2, to be honest, I think 4-2 is taken care of in our high school 4-1, because we're talking about anatomical.
Yeah,
similarities. And the whole thing about the, well, both of them are taken care of in 4-1. No, 4-, the middle school 4-2 and 4-3 are both taken care of in high school 4-1. So,
So we're gonna get rid of middle school
So we don't even have to look at those.
we don't even need to look at it.
That's
Well, I
2,
just
3,
wanted to
and-
mention it 'cause I knew we
Yeah.
talked about moving these up, so.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, oh, thank you, thank you,
I
thank
think-
you. The ones that we moved and did, you know, a rough calculation saves about a quarter out of the middle school
This is
stuff.
too much.
That can be now spent teaching the other better.
Teaching it well, yeah. Having a
So-
foundation.
Are we okay with this statement as written? There aren't very many comments
On which one, the one we just.
from our
Yeah.
survey.
Yeah.
We need concepts.
This one says include a work
Yeah, well, that's not teaching. Not everyday common students in everyday common schools.
Yeah, an advanced biology class is when we want to talk about
Yeah.
allele frequency calculations.
That would be a GC.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Not
believe
general
me,
bio.
those teachers who teach honors courses really provide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. I mean, they can, but the average Joe Blow student, no.
Well,
That's
because
fine.
they don't get it. I mean, but the kids who take those honors.
Oh, so you're saying those teachers write that in if they don't get their average students?
Well, the ones who teach the honors
Yeah,
courses,
yeah.
they're gonna get your
Yeah.
above the bar
Yeah.
students who, and they automatically pick it up as far as they can get
Well,
it.
also a lot of the courses that we credit first week.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's not for the average.
No, that's not for the average.
Yeah.
Everyday.
They may not realize that.
Okay, so are we good with this? Do we need to vote?
Do we need to vote on this one? Okay.
We don't even vote, okay.
We don't even have a vote, sounds like 4-3 is okay as written. All right, 4-4.
Let's see, 4.
Construct an explanation based on evidence for how natural selection leads to adaptation of populations. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on using data to provide evidence for how specific biotic and abiotic differences in ecosystems, such as ranges of seasonal temperature, long-term climate change, acidity, light, geographic barriers, or evolution of other organisms, contribute to a change in gene frequency over time, leading to adaptations in populations.
Long-term climate change.
It doesn't say anything, so different high school.
More pollution.
4-4.
High school or middle school?
High school, yeah.
Okay.
Girls.
yeah, we're just looking at those from the middle school.
What's biotic?
Living and non-living.
Living and non-living.
So living would be another species, a non-living factor would be the water supply.
Water, temperature, amount of sunlight, type of soil.
Boron and soil doesn't spill something. Doesn't spill half something is really looking at this is not a boron and soil. It's an abiotic condition.
There are lots of rock stuff.
I'm looking at the comments on this. So
They
they
got plenty of them on
focus
the garden.
specifically on laws. But they're
Okay.
narrow.
Oh, yeah,
They
exactly.
has a whole dime of wheelbarrow, pick rocks out of the garden.
Focus on only the covered moss.
Yeah. I thought she loved us.
I'm gonna use
There's some amazing simulations for this.
Oh, yeah, this is good stuff online.
I'm all for the math.
Plus you can go with the social studies teacher,
Thing is that I want my kids to know a little bit more about
Well, yeah, the moss, yeah, that's just a bit, little bit.
Are we all okay with this one then?
Originally was not marked as 1, 2, and 5 were MSA at all, so.
Okay, all right, so we're okay with this one as written. All right, 4-5. Go ahead, Katie, you're doing so great at reading these.
Hey.
You have a nice voice.
She's quickly become our secretary.
Awesome, we needed one, because apparently I'm horrible.
I'm sorry, I am like, it's the way I flow. Okay. Evaluate the evidence supporting claims that changes in environmental conditions may result in 1. Increases in number of individuals of some species, 2. The emergence of new species over time, and 3. The extinction of other species.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was reading two different things. Okay. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on determining cause and effect relationships for how changes to the environment such as deforestation, fishing, application of fertilizers, drought, flood, and the rate of change of the environment affect distribution or disappearance of traits and species.
You never found out that the part to that I still have a little bit of a struggle or two. I know we talked about how that.
Emergence of new species that come out that will have new species show up.
Maybe not in our lifetime.
Oh, we just talking about it, just segregate
I mean, the birds that we have today aren't necessarily the birds we had on the,
millions and billions of years ago.
so.
Not even that, it could be hundreds or just thousands of years ago.
A domestic chicken doesn't really have any kind of ancestor right now.
It also depends on how quickly they reproduce. That can usually how fast they reproduce. Yeah, bacteria that reproduces every couple of hours, you have more opportunity for
I think part of why she is trying to.
Lots of staring at my places.
Is to understand what's meant, species, what exactly, that's, I try to wrap my mind around what exactly means to this.
Maybe grizzly bears and polar bears.
Species
Are those two different species?
Yeah.
Species of
Okay,
the
so you're saying
population.
a grizzly bear could develop into a different kind of bear.
Yeah.
Not one that is currently living.
Right. But not that the bear is gonna become,
Right.
it's just,
It's never going to be that drastic, it's very little.
Yeah.
And for species like you mentioned, the horse, the donkey, and the mule. The mule lives, I mean, it's an organism, it's there, but we don't call it a species because two mules cannot reproduce and produce offspring like themselves. Two different species can reproduce sometimes, but they have to make viable offspring that can also reproduce more of their own kind, and that's where the definition for the mule falls out, and some of these other things fall out. And that's, so two things can be closely related enough that they actually can reproduce and make an offspring, but yet they are separate species because of that little caveat we have in there.
Oh, yeah, we don't know.
So species can be very closely related, but there is some enough difference that somehow they cannot, then the offspring cannot reproduce.
and there's still a bear then.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, like a horse and a donkey are, they're very similar.
Yeah.
But they make something together that does look different.
There was a flower, I don't remember my evolution teacher in college using this as an example. There was a plant, that they were hybridizing in California, and I don't remember the name of the plant. I'd have to go back and look at his little textbook, but they were hybridizing, and eventually it got to the point where it became its own species, and it wouldn't reproduce with some of the other flowers then, but it was still a flower, it just was a new species of that flower. That's what it's talking about. We're not talking about bears becoming fish or anything like
Or
that.
Claire having puppies.
Yeah, when we having puppies, I don't do that.
Corn, when we make the hybrid corn, they have to make new seed every year to plant. Because the two species, to get the desired characteristics that they want, the plant to grow for food, has to take the two different species, they cross-pollinate them, they get the seed, they plant it, grows into a straight plant. They cannot use the seed and plant to grow more like it the next year. Because a fourth of it would be one, fourth would be the other, and half would be maybe the combine. And so they have to buy new. You can replant your soybean seed. You can replant your wheat that you harvest yourself. Corn, you buy new seed every year.
Well, it's because the corn, they put so many different, they put two different species together and
Yeah.
they combine.
Yeah.
They don't
Just like
produce
yours.
I mean, if it's.
Cornish crust,
the-
Cornish crust.
The
for
genetic
chickens.
mix, it
You
just
need
got
chickens.
remixed up.
Their
So-
lifespans,
No.
5 to 8
Well,
weeks.
you got two different strains.
Their
One
meat chickens
strain
and their,
has certain attributes,
Yeah.
the other
and put
strain
it
has
out.
different
They're not gonna live
attributes.
forever
You
because
can
they will
combine them,
quickly grow so big that
get a better
their bones
plant
can
than you
support.
did before.
If
Yeah.
you just kill them over that.
And the seeds, they do make seeds that would grow, but they would not 100% give you what you planted the first time. And you want that same kind of plant every time, so you have to.
There would be a lot of variance in the plants that you would get out of it.
Yeah, we have this
It's not a
1-2-1
farm
rule.
that you're gonna keep.
Yeah,
And
so
if
yeah,
they're keeping
so yeah,
it
that's
there,
one, so that's the kind of thing too. Those are two
But
different.
if you can plant over pollinated corn that's been selected, that should be a certain type. You can keep the seed out of it.
Well, it's the same species, you're not cross-pollinating two species. Two varieties. Within the same, yeah.
Two, the first variety.
Yeah,
bunch of
but-
bunnies.
So that's,
We don't have bunnies.
Now they became red monkeys.
And you're gonna notice the population of red hawks is gonna go down because there's no more bunnies for them to eat.
Oh, yeah, but as long as people let their cats out there, they'll be.
So are we okay with this one?
We should throw it away.
Is there any other discussion that needs to happen on this one, or are we okay with it?
That in and of itself.
Oh,
is
there
hard.
was an interesting thing in the comments that talked about predict. I liked that. Does anyone else see that? In the comment, it says students should predict how these changes can result in evolution. You don't like that?
I think at the high school level, they can evaluate somebody else's predictions, they're gonna be better than predicting themselves, the average student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the average Joe Blow student, maybe to second year level. Otherwise, I think they can maybe then move to predicting, because predicting will be like a number, what was that, would be a 6, or analyzing a 4,
Yeah, you're right.
probably.
So are we all okay with this one now, as
I mean, I do
written?
like that.
They think,
Yeah,
they think
yeah.
about a lot of characters.
Gotcha.
They don't get,
Okay, all right, moving on to 4-6.
I think Dennis may or may not have wanted to vote.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Did you
thinking-
want to vote, Dennis?
Well,
If so, you need to make your motion.
I've heard of new species over time. Is that within the same, I don't know how you're gonna say it, but, we're not changing one species, a new species, it would have to be a new species.
It means what it says.
It means what it says, absolutely.
Yeah, it says changing this.
Okay, so give me an example.
The organism that itself is not the new species.
I
Like I
think
said,
Shelley had a
it's not
great
one generation,
example.
it's not one generation, it's multiple generations where this happens.
Give me a good example.
Shelley, do you
of
want to
a new
repeat what you were
species.
saying
I didn't
about
have the example, I just brought it up.
Yeah, this is the grizzly bear and a polar bear are different species, but they're both bears. And there could be something that changes that polar bear, especially with all their issues right now. And it could be unable to now reproduce with another polar bear. It might look very similar, but it's now a new species. It's still a bear.
But
It's just
one-
no longer a polar bear.
But sexually reproducing organisms, one organism will not make a new species because it's just one that would be that. It can reproduce it, but sexually reproduce it. So this is a gradual change in population over time, multiple generations. This does not happen overnight.
And this
one
is
time,
also
one
within
season.
population.
It's when the population, it does not have, evolution does not occur in an individual organism, it occurs in the population over time. In a species over time. One organism just does not boom, oh.
Let's say a long time ago, there were brown bears, or way ago.
It happened over the ice ages, it's from the mutation from the light there.
And so, having a lighter coat, snow-filled landscape probably would be a little bit better off. So those who are further north, not all the cubs survive. Unfortunately, the wild actually, it's true that probably yes is that we have to survive because they all seem to be starving unless they're monitored. So you've got these brown bears, they're in the white landscape, in order to be able to catch fish or catch their prey, in order to be able to survive in general, they're going to have the lighter coats are going to survive. And so as they stay up north, they keep breeding with the lighter coat ones survive, the darker coat ones die. And the lighter coat ones breed with other lighter coat ones. They form a new set of offspring with lighter coats. Of those 5, 2 or 3 survive because not all animals make it. And then they have more, and you do this again 1,000 times. And you find that by constantly weeding out the ones with the darker coat, you end up with white bears. And those white bears, you bring them back down to darker colored buds from way back when, they are not similar enough genetically to breed anymore. So they're a new species. That's kind of the way evolution works. It's not that suddenly a brown bear couple has all white offspring on it and go off to the fold. That's not how it works.
And now all of a sudden they can't breed with anybody else.
Yeah, so the slow microevolution, take one step at a time. And you take one step at a time, you could go from New York to California. And that's how it works. It's just a one step at a time. And they have to have certain things. One is the environment has to be different. The environment has to change of some sort. We saw that with the white landscape as opposed to the forest landscape. And the second thing that has to happen is they can't be in contact with each other. There has to be some kind of barrier where they no longer breed with each other. And so the white bear stayed up north, the brown bear stayed down south. And then slowly over time you got two different species. And that's really what it's saying.
You have the original bear that had all this genetic material and that, white color.
Well, the original bear, of course, is dead.
And it's far more complicated than just the color of the coat, because
there's other
polar bears'
You
hair
also have to
is
figure the ones down south were also.
Well, yeah, you might be looking at several mutations that occurred to get
It's not that they stayed
polar bear.
exactly the same. That environment, no environment stays the same forever, so they were adapting to their environment at the same pace that
And the species was advancing.
so they keep going and going. So there's no original animal that you're looking for because there are thousands of generations from that first time when they discovered it. You can't say, oh, there's the original animal that's unchanged from 10,000 years ago.
We talked about the dog, the wild dog, that's all the breeds of dogs that we have today. And so what has happened is that as they've been isolated because of environmental factors, certain dogs, different colors, different traits, do better than others. So some of the population will lose genetic material.
Not necessarily, it's just not being.
Dogs are really only one species because they all breed back to about the same animal.
They're varieties.
Even my English bulldogs, which don't couple very well,
They have no.
will breed back to the same basic animal.
My dogs have no environmental stressors.
Dogs
survive no matter how unadapted they are to survive. They will survive.
Dogs are a species. All the different kinds of dogs are what we call subspecies. So they can breed with each other. Plants, they call them varieties.
We call them breeds, it's just a word.
But it doesn't,
That's
that's
not what they're
completely
doing. They
different
need
than
excuses.
theirs, because the dogs, that would be a good example. If dogs were in the wild, most of them starved to death, they couldn't find food. And then they had to continually, because what you're taking out of the equation with dogs is the environmental stress that chooses some animals and doesn't choose others. That environmental stress that killed the darker fur bears. Yeah, well,
They would have been eaten a long time ago.
but in a way there is a kind of a stress on those dogs because the cuter they are, you know what I mean?
Well, humans greatly influence the very, yeah, the population.
Yeah, so you can't really use that as an example because you don't have what's absolutely vital for natural selection to occur is that if they're not fit to survive, they won't reproduce. That's just not true with dogs. Dogs can be as fit as possible, and they will survive very well. The only thing that's good to look at dogs is the variety of size and everything that occurs from one set of genes. Like when you look at the dog, you go, there's a white poodle and this giant mastiff. Almost the same animal. And you have so much variation in just one set of genes. You can imagine if you take that over millions of years, that's a tremendous ability to change.
When I grew up, there was yellow apple, and then
Jonathan, but this is.
and that was it. And now you go to the grocery store and there's all different kinds,
So
but it's still apple.
there's so many great genes out there, and genes have the possibility of
Yeah, that's
changing dramatically.
So is everyone vote on this? Is that?
So, are you willing to vote?
I just have new species over time, that's my problem right there.
It says what it means to us, and we're willing to vote on it, but
Well, I'm trying to, is there a better choice of words?
No.
that is the language that needs to be
Okay, which one is this?
4-5.
I make a motion that we accept 4-5 as written.
All right, voting then, Debbie,
Yay.
Katie,
Yay.
Susan,
Yay.
Craig,
Yes.
Tony. All right, Jack,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dennis.
No.
All right, Annette,
Yes.
Kim, Shelley. Patricia?
Yes.
All right. All right, 4-6.
All right, this one is engineering. Create or revise a simulation to test a solution to mitigate adverse impacts of human activity on biodiversity.
This would be like your artificial selection.
Well, you're imitating, right? To
Simulation.
a simulation, yeah. So I guess what they're trying to say is try to produce acid rain and see what's going to happen to.
Or that this is come up with a solution that would kind of do away with the impact that the commission had, we have protected us.
Like increased soil erosion.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with
Well,
the
Chris, we
the only
did
problem I had with that one
so that
came
the
from the core
population
idea,
is
is something that's core idea, that it wasn't sustainable, so.
It's just, we're trying to just be a little bit more STEM instead of just bio.
Well, somebody has an interesting comment on the survey. So this is important, however, I do not believe that all students in the state have the resources to actually complete the simulation beyond designing the plan on paper, which is, that could be all it is. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
computer simulation.
I don't,
you know.
yeah, kid, you don't have the time.
Yeah.
Create or revise a simulation.
Well, it could be, you know, all the Project Wild Learning Tree, they have like essentially games of tag that are simulations.
Mm-hmm.
So that the kids are running and then you say, okay, how can you improve the situation? And so they take out like a predator and then they look at how many survive from there and you see what I'm saying? I mean, there are lots of different ways of doing a simulation.
Yeah.
But they're talking about human activity adverse impacts.
I think that if anything, I would change the wording to create or revise a simulation or activity, just to make it a little bit clearer.
simulation stinks, that one scares me. I didn't have a problem with thinking
Are we
simulation, I
having
thought with.
are we having the students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Create,
Yeah,
like,
they have a
How about we use the word model? Create a
Ooh.
model to test.
Here was a model. Oh, model is big these days.
Modeling is big.
That model's better than simulation. Simulation, I can computer simulation. What
Yeah.
can they do? Oh my
Or
God.
making, you like actually physically making something happen. I mean,
Yeah.
but in a situation like that.
Because a model could be on paper, a model could be like physically doing something. A model opens that up. But
I think
yeah.
that based on the comments, people are struggling with this concept.
That
They just don't understand what it means to create even a
Or just,
model.
well,
I
model's better than simulation.
Yeah, I think the simulation is the part that I'm up on, because I think computer simulation
I
has to
would
be
use
virtual.
create or revise a model.
But
to
here's the
test
thing that I
solution.
like about simulation is a sequence of events. And so
But your model could be a computer simulation.
It can, there could be an option.
Why can't we just use the clarification? Design a solution instead of having a similar, because designing the solution would be, no matter how they want to do it, whether they want to do it visually, or they want to, draw something up just on paper, or,
Well, but
here's my thing on that is that the idea behind the standard being an engineering standard is they want the students to physically do something, whether it's maybe like design a game. You know how like and you play the game and do that. They want their hands to do something. If you use just the clarification statement, design a solution, then I could just write a solution on paper and I'm really not following through with all the details. That I
We use
think,
the word model instead.
and I think that's why model is.
It gets a little more into it.
create or revise a model to test a solution to mitigate adverse impacts of human activity on biodiversity.
How do you revise a model?
Well, you can take someone else's model and
Somebody else, yeah, and like the teacher could say, we are going to see if blah 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 will do blah blah blah.
Here's a good example, Shelley. We were doing these capstone projects for my classes. We started out, I gave them the problem where we were looking at UV radiation. We wanted to see what are some different ways that we could change the amount of UV radiation that was reaching these UV beads. Well, some kids stopped there, but then others wanted to go above and beyond it, and they saw that there was a difference in there wasn't a difference in the SPF for the length of time, but then they built upon their own thing, so they left them in for a longer period of time, and then they noticed that the SPF actually has a little bit.
So that's a revised.
So it's a revisement. They look at something that they've already done and they revised it. So that's a revision. They could look at somebody else's model and go, okay, well, let's change this and see what happens based on that model.
Model is mathematical, conceptual.
I think use the word model because that's one of those.
There's tons of models.
Yeah, and see, this would be for the level of student. Your better students, the classroom could create their own. The teacher could create a few models and give to the special, lower level kids and have them revise. How would you improve this? That opens up the ability to meet the students'
Differentiated
levels.
instruction.
Yes. So they could,
Well, and some teachers, because of the time factor,
Yes.
will say, okay, here are two things you can do.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah.
And then those kids that need help
can do the revised version.
can do the easier one. And two, a lot of the kids think that, well, I have all this other stuff going on, so they have a choice to do
And
the
it's
easier
still-
one too.
If they have access to this, which, where I live, we all have access. So, the revise, I could give them a computer simulation, because there are computer simulations that aren't very good. And say, okay, play this for a while. Now, tell me how you fix it.
Recommend. Use like recommendations. That'd be great.
Or how would you change this to minimize, how would you change this to minimize this impact?
And kids are willing to gain some of the what they write things, well, if they choose to do that.
Yeah.
They can do that. I think I agree that we except that except well, hey. We got other stuff to cover today. and I'm not gonna be here for the next meeting in June, so, create or revise a model to test a solution. I move that we accept it as written, except to replace the word simulation with model.
I second.
Okay, are we voting on that, or are we just all going to accept
The
it?
clarification statement as well with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep everything, just change one word.
Yeah.
You can do like, all those in favor say aye, majority.
Yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right.
That's just a lot faster.
You're right.
Unless we have a really contentious.
Unless it's
There you
workable.
go.
Close. Don't make me.
Okay.
If we have one that's really contentious, then I do it.
Yes.
Well, and I'm taking notes on, like, you had to say the word to word, I was writing or abstaining too, so. Okay, so it's noon, do we want to go now and possibly hit the lunch rush, or do we want to maybe work on something else for the next?
There's no
I have-
no
It's
one's here.
Saturday.
I have to leave at 1,
Okay.
so
We can,
I realize you still have your quorum and stuff, but
we can,
We could work.
if, I need to use the restroom, otherwise I have no problem pushing until 1.
Yeah, so you can cover stuff while you're here, and then you go to the.
And is everybody else okay with that? Too?
I've got some almonds and some pumpkin seeds and stuff.
The snacks out there and they're really good, V8 juice. I had to use the
But if you don't eat anything, I got
when
some
I was
stuff here.
younger, I would not have drink V8 to save my soul. Now I love this stuff.
Well, I don't mind those mango peach. Mango peach V8 is
Nothing,
good.
nothing
Oh, I
tomato
like
like
mango
that.
stuff. And I make my children use a V8 because it's something I
Oh,
yeah.
I have a crock-pot stew recipe that you put V8 as the juice on it with the beef and the potatoes and carrots and V8 and put tapioca and chicken. That's it. That's it. It's really good.
Okay, so we're moving on to the Earth Age one, the Earth and
High
Space
school
science.
Earth and Space 2-7.
I was just looking at the next one that's written on here, which is the 1-2,
Oh, we-
1-5,
well,
and 1-6.
Yeah, I just recommended that.
But we didn't do, under evolutionary selection, we didn't do high school, we did SS 2-7.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
did, the middle
Yes,
school,
yes.
we did 2 and 3 by putting them with, taking them out of the high school. But if we do middle school, school 1.
High school ESS 2-7, okay. Do you want to read that one for us, Katie?
Sure thing. Let me pull it up here. Do we know what page one this is?
ESS 2.
ESS 2-7.
ESS or LS 2-7?
No, ESS. I don't, why is this under, oh.
I think
because
it's
it says-
H the Earth.
Well, and it's simultaneous coevolution, that's why.
I got it.
Which,
It is on page 112 of the PDF.
ESS 2-7. Construct an argument based on evidence about the simultaneous coevolution of Earth's systems and life on Earth. Verification statement. Emphasis is on the dynamic causes, effects, and feedback between the biosphere and Earth's other systems, whereby geoscience factors control the evolution of life, which in turn continuously alters Earth's surface. Examples include how photosynthetic life altered the atmosphere for the production of oxygen, which in turn increased weathering rates and allowed for the evolution of animal life. How microbial life on land increased the formation of soil, which in turn allowed for the evolution of living plants. Or how the evolution of corals created reefs that altered patterns of erosion and deposition along coastlines and provided habitat for the evolution of new forms. Assessment boundary. Assessment does not include a comprehensive understanding of the mechanisms of how the biosphere interacts with all the Earth's other systems.
yeah, there's a, well, if you look on the survey, there's a lot of comments on this one.
And I
Do you
don't
want to finish the life sciences?
That would
We're
be
done with all the life science
ESS
ones.
2-7.
Well, this was under you, you put the,
Yeah, and, the clarification
the
statement.
middle school ones, we actually took out the 2.
Yeah, that, but it's also
We took
constructed
those out.
argument based on evidence about the simultaneous coalition of Earth systems and life on Earth.
Yeah, 4-2, 4-3.
That's hard to say what that means. I mean, that's why they have all those statements, because the wording, I see what
I
that.
don't know if they were already reading.
I'm sorry, where are we starting now? High school for science?
Yeah, because we were still doing the evolution thing, so we just moved on to the next standard of the Earth and Space Science 2-7. Okay, so we weren't going to read what the survey people have to say, because there's a lot of.
What page of the survey is that?
It's 121, 122.
There will be argument about how students would obviously really don't pick those sciences. We'll talk about that. You know, these things are not going to be on one test, we're assuming. Like, we're not going back to that, like you still about GOC or whatever. So that one is, not every kid is going to be tested on this necessarily.
Right. And if every kid ends up being tested on our science, then every kid's going to start taking.
You're a science, and I don't see what's going there.
Yeah, no, because they can't even get enough money and backing for a physical science university at this point.
I know, and where's the science teachers going to come from? Chemistry teacher retired when I did. She's going back full time next year because it's critical need. We cannot get a certified chemistry teacher from children.
You can. Or something, case like that. That's what you should say.
Well, yeah, but still, there is a limited number of them out there.
That's also for a lot of people.
I hire a science teacher for our district. I always say that. Make sure that everybody knows.
Well, yeah, for you. And the thing is, we had one applicant who was certified, and they went to Staley because they can't pay more than our district can. And the thing is, there aren't others knocking at the door to get the job center. They're more open to chemistry than our science teachers.
And just make sure don't have any
I can make Oscar on a summary and take Oscar to a rock. That's how we breathe on a summary.
But she was drawing her for a year, almost two, drawing both salaries because.
I have something that was decided about too, those great big cans, that you know, the beans and stuff in, and it was a big chunk of inorganic materials. And I said, underwent a chemical reaction.
Longer, the clarification statement is longer than the actual purpose, shorten it, and the expectations from students be less vague and ask a real question. Usually they're just throwing a baited trap out there and looking for possible.
This could be the hardest standard I've ever heard of.
I couldn't even read it.
This to me is like define the university in 3 examples.
Right.
You know, the way it's worded, it does need some clarification statements, but then you got much like that.
Okay, the question is, do we need it?
Well, yeah, this is number 7. There's a lot of them there. This is number 7, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Well, I do think it's very important when we say, because
Where are they going to teach it there?
the history of the earth is built on the idea that you have all this carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and because of the photoplankton in the ocean, we then created abundance of oxygen, which then led to this ability to sustain life. And that's very important based on the geological scale. But
It's very important because I'm teaching it.
it's only, well, I mean, it's important to the history of the earth, which is Earth and space. So this, I mean, to say that it's not necessary, well, not for biology, but it is necessary for Earth and space.
Yeah, high school, they should teach Earth and Space. Plus the high school. Yeah, yours do. But you know how many don't? I bet you're
But
like
that's, but
25%.
does that mean we can't have a standard? I guess
We
I don't
can.
understand why not have a standard for it. It's
Because
not
some of the
required.
essence of it will be when you do the cycles, the ecology.
Life science. I don't understand why you're listening to
Is there some?
Well,
This
it's
is-
actually,
oh, this is what-
we were using
History of the earth.
calcium chloride. It's like
Yeah, physical science, life science, and earth science.
essentially a chloride.
It's-
No, no,
Earth science is its own.
And it decomposes into the
I mean, my
Yeah,
understanding.
I just see it as science, because IO and all those stuff
It's wrong.
I mean,
It is.
if we're gonna look at this as though it's not
to get it
necessary,
started,
then
you actually
why
have
have any
something on the top,
science?
you rub something.
Well, it is, just to give guidance to those
Yeah,
teachers.
but it needs to be narrow, I mean, it needs to be more narrow.
Or just
Yeah.
Explain how the geological processes of the earth led to the ability of existing life.
That's much better.
Thank you.
As a chemist, I can make.
They don't have anything.
Explain how the geological processes of the earth's development led to the ability of existing life.
South Carolina is the only one that does something.
Has something like that.
That analyze and interpret data from soil from different locations to compare the major physical components of soil, such as the amount
How
of
the
sand, silt,
geological
clay,
processes of the earth's
humus,
development
as
allowed for
evidence of earth processes in that region in producing each type of soil. So it doesn't even really.
That's
No,
what
the
it's
process
saying.
a lot.
It's not, and Massachusetts doesn't
That's
have
why
it.
Massachusetts doesn't have any.
Revised
Struggle with
doesn't have it.
what
They don't even include it.
might be present on
Which
some
the
other
revised,
plans.
they're doing what we did. and
Yeah,
what
they didn't
we're
put it
doing,
in.
they didn't
Maybe it's
put
just
it
too,
back.
well, like I said, I mean.
Well, then can we
Maybe.
say
I could
that
find a new way.
Maybe.
That's number seven.
Could we
That's a lot
say
for the
that-
one.
But I just want to make it crystal clear.
Is there a
Earth
piece of
didn't
it that
develop.
we
Could be
make
gone
sure
somewhere.
is included in the ones?
No, but
The
it's.
Earth
Yeah,
is
it needs to be there,
reacting and
right?
saying, okay, we need to do this for my career to survive.
Because have we
That's
done?
not what she said.
We haven't done the earth science yet. That's the.
Well, you
No,
want to just wait on
I
that?
think-
Yeah, once we do the earth science, once we do the earth, we haven't even talked about those at all.
Yeah, I think that,
You're talking about something
You
like
know what I
that,
want
I
to say
totally
so
get.
bad, but you might.
because I think that we might be able to take components of that and combine them to try to as like this.
Well, why didn't you? You said we did it in such impact.
So, let's, okay, so construct an argument, let's just look at the performance expectations. Yes, I can send that to you. Construct an argument based on evidence about simultaneous co-evolution of Earth systems and life on Earth. So what that's saying is that the non-living stuff changed just like the living stuff changed.
No, yeah, but that's wrong. Because that's exactly what I'm getting at. It didn't change just like it. And you're using the term evolution in two radically different ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I was trying to rewrite it.
That's what scares me. I don't want anybody to think, when you say the evolution of Earth, the physical Earth, that has to do with just things changing over time. That has nothing to do with natural selection, anything else we're talking about.
No, because now you're doing chemical evolution.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is I feel super uncomfortable leaving it like that because I honestly think that people are going to equate the two in the classroom. Oh, you know, evolution, like, you know, the Earth at all. No.
So,
Okay, I got it.
construct an argument based on evidence about the simultaneous change of Earth systems and life on Earth.
How about construct an argument based on evidence about the
Well, we talked
change
about.
of Earth systems, the evolution of life.
Okay, mine, I got like 5 different ones. The one that I had was construct an argument, now I'm doing that, but describe. Construct an argument on how the geological process of the Earth's development allowed for systems of life.
Basically, those two, that's like primary succession kind of thing, where you make the soil first, then the plants take hold, and they, I mean,
We're gonna wait on that.
the lichens, and they
They were
more
having-
soil, and then
They
with
were
soil, it's
already,
basically.
they were already
the
discussing,
second
they
primary
were,
succession.
we had started talking about when we said, we could.
But if they don't, but if they go back and look at some of these others.
Okay.
Are we reacting to, or?
Alright, guys, listen, I have a question. Could, since this is the last one on a group of 7, could we come back to this when we
Yeah.
address all of those?
Yep.
Well, what you have.
Because we haven't done
I'm
retention.
making a new document, no worries. No worries, I'm way ahead of you.
You already look at Massachusetts.
We don't have anything on that
That's
one.
just-
They don't have
They
anything.
don't have
They don't
anything.
have anything.
Even with the revised, they went.
From NGS is not,
This is
or
saying,
NGS
let's find
that
this
is
one.
not included.
I can see what they
Okay, so the last one for this one is middle school, because we already took care of 4-2 and 4-3 that said those are in the high school and those are actually part of 4-1 in the high school. So we just need to look at middle school 4-1.
I'm getting there.
Scrolling. It's at middle school's first. And physical science, then life science. From the beginning.
Middle school 4-1.
It's page 38, I think, if I read it.
Page 38.
On the PDF.
On the page numbers on the bottom of the
Oh.
page.
No.
It's,
PDF 27. Okay. Analyze and interpret data for patterns in the fossil record that document the existence, diversity, extinction, and change of life forms throughout the history of life on Earth, under the assumption that natural laws operate today as in the past. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on finding patterns of changes in the level of complexity of anatomical structures in organisms and the chronological order of fossil appearance in the rock layers. Assessment boundary does not include the names of individual species or geological eras in the fossil record.
Very good comments on that one.
Yeah.
We often use assumptions to set boundaries because otherwise there is no constraints. We assume the floor is supported when we walk into it. We assume the chair when we test it. And so they're saying when we want to analyze this problem, let's assume that the conditions are somewhat similar to what we're seeing today. Then what's that?
Middle school.
As a college teacher, I would like it in there because they come to me and they think an assumption's a bad thing. And I want to teach them that assumptions are boundary setting to help us understand. But to start the conversation, we're going to have to agree to at least begin talking about some similar things. I love that. I love that. Pun intended.
I assume that if some kid's in there and says, oh yeah, well what if all the color was red? Teachers can go,
Well, I would say, okay, let's go there.
well,
well, and one reason I'm bringing it up is just, it's based on, religion aside, every culture around the world has in their history, a story, a part of the history of a worldwide flood. Aside from the Bible, the Mayan calendar has a date for a worldwide flood. So things haven't always been the same.
oh, I see.
Oh, but this is saying natural laws. So this is like saying, well, it's like giving a kid a physics problem and saying, assuming the surface is frictionless. You can achieve a frictionless surface, but we assume that the surface that has no friction because that makes for the calculations to be simpler for the child to do.
What if it makes the wrong conclusion?
It doesn't. Not in those cases. It's just physical laws. What you're referring to is something a lot more complex. So we're saying assume gravity's the same way.
Because gravity is not the same. And so if I was to try and teach people the rate of fall from a building, and I made them include all possible gravitational pulls anywhere on the surface of the planet, they would spend approximately a month figuring out how long it would take them to fall off the building to when they went outside it would fall off in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's close enough.
I'm saying an event like that would have a huge effect on fossil record.
And so I said to
We
leave
have
that
a layer,
out.
But
all
that's-
layers.
but that's
of-
not-
That's
that's-
a bedrock.
That's not natural
Right.
law.
Well, yeah, but they're asking them to interpret data about the fossil records, but when you cut out something like that, that's a huge.
We're not cutting that out. That's
Because you
because
assume that it was.
assumption that natural laws operate the same. The fact that there was a massive flood doesn't fall under a natural law.
A natural law would be gravity,
Would be like
sun, positive and negative attract each other. And
Things
that's why
that
I don't think
are
you even need this because
When I
you
heat a
can
gas
literally
leaks
put this
things.
on every
That's
single
natural.
standard out there.
Yes, and also the assumption that we have an orderly answer to everything versus chaos.
It didn't.
That's one of the fundamental assumptions of science.
You can't name a single standard that you can't put assume the natural laws operate
Right.
today as in the past. Every standard could say that. I mean, of course we have some assumptions. But I have an assumption that Marlon Sun's coming. My assumption. I don't need to write that down. Yeah, on Facebook.
And a lot of people before.
Wait, Chris was on Facebook.
It's the
I'm gonna friend you on Facebook just so I can.
and it will be posted tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, I think it's causing too
And the
many
legislative
problems.
players, so-
I don't understand why it's in there. I don't know. I can't imagine having to explain the natural laws. The kids come in and they don't have any. They think computers exist.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Let alone the air.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I mean that. I don't think it needs to be in there because I think everybody assumes that up was up and down was down. I don't understand.
Just go lower.
Well, I don't understand why that's even in there. I think it's going way beyond what we need to put in. Assume that natural laws operate in place in the past. The natural laws
Have always acted that way.
like gravity, positive and negative attract. You know, I mean, I know there's tiny little changes, but really you kind of make assumptions. You can't say, oh, my birthday was last week. Oh, you mean north to south? That was awesome. Why would you assume that? That's not a conversation. That's insane. Why?
As a middle school science teacher, Susan,
I'm fine with it in there. I don't see where it
well, I
hurts.
just meant
And-
as the standard as a whole, not necessarily whether or not we're taking the assumption or.
Oh, I'm fine with the standard as a whole.
Or do you also teach middle school?
I can just tell you, I was in 8th grade for 18 years. Now I'm in 6th grade, back in 6th grade. It is phenomenal in 20 years how dumb kids are now. I'm sorry if they don't know anything. Seriously,
Common culture.
when I started teaching, kids, they knew so much more than they know now. It's sad.
Now they know
Well,
different
And
stuff.
I teach where kids
All social stuff.
So
Are
are
very
you
middle
saying
class.
that the assumption
and their
needs to
parents
be in there or
expect
the assumption
them
doesn't?
to have
So
an
do you think we should,
education.
do you think the assumption statement should be in there or no?
When you say
Well,
something.
Considering,
let me
wait, and this is for teachers. I had a student teacher come in last year, she just couldn't go watch me teach, and I happened to be teaching how to write a hypothesis. And this was to honors 8th graders. And so they were all writing them, and I was going around checking them, and they no longer write an if-then statement. And I walked back and I checked hers. And I said, this one's correct, this one's incorrect. She pointed to the one that was incorrect and she said, this is how you're teaching us to write it at Lindenwood University.
But
right
you
now."
don't always have to have an instance.
That's not a hypothesis.
It's not a hypothesis. And I prefer that we stop doing that.
Should
It's
be a
driving me
statement.
crazy.
Well, look, here's my
That's a
question
totally
to you.
different thing.
Here's my question
Well,
to
that's why the whole
you. If we
legislative
don't put
law-
in, under the assumptions that natural laws operate today as in the past, do you feel like you would be walking past a middle school teacher and they would be talking about the past and then say something like when gravity didn't exist, of course?
No, they wouldn't do that.
Well, that's why it's
That's
in
kind
here.
of what is in there. I mean, and that's kind of why I'm like,
I don't think it's necessary.
the natural law
you have to assume that it's in there. And they say, and you say, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Gravity didn't exist. And they say, well, I read the standard and it didn't say to assume natural laws.
You're taking it even a little bit different, because I'm gonna agree with Jack in terms of kids leave school with the idea assumptions are a bad thing, and
Kids don't do this.
I realize that, but the teachers,
influences the way they teach.
the teachers need to start thinking about that too, and making some comments to them that, okay, in this model, what are some assumptions that are being made, because no model is perfect. When we're doing this problem, what's an assumption that we should make? Because kids need to be thinking about the fact that sometimes things are just so daggone messy that we make some assumptions so we clean it up.
Well, I
And so
do that, but I
leaving
don't.
it in there allows the teacher to realize, okay, this might need to be something that I need to emphasize with them, that we're making an assumption.
I honestly don't think that this will affect.
I have had teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, you know, the church just says something that I know that some of our teachers too.
Yeah, well, continue a little bit, I didn't think we needed to find communication, I can live with it.
Yeah.
What would you like me to say?
You gotta press the button.
I know, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, we're not all the 100% of what we want
At
here.
our school, when I asked her about.
I didn't want communication.
I mean, I'm trying to think of this as
What is
a
Teacher has this standard.
What's Massachusetts say on this one?
Alright, I'm on
The
it, I'm
teacher
on
has
it.
to run the standard on the board, they're gonna cover that.
Analyze and interpret.
Yeah, some schools are doing that.
Yeah, and they're starting to make us do that too.
Oh, we just have to write objectives, not standards.
No,
Objectives
well,
are-
they're starting to make us write standards on the board.
Ours have to let them.
So they're
I would not
revised.
do well in that district. I teach human beings. That's what I do for a living. I would not,
I
you know,
do
and that's
too,
just
but
my, I could go.
But when they walk in your room with a little board and they take a picture of it and they send it to NEE and it's on your permanent record.
I know, but then, I mean, but the problem, I can't get into this, this is not why I'm here.
Okay,
I
yeah.
value you guys as teachers, there we go.
So,
So let's go back to the standard here.
Let's do it.
so that's why,
Are there any other issues besides the assumption about natural laws?
Can I read the
Yes, please.
revised? The revised version from Massachusetts has, and it's very similar, but analyze and interpret evidence from the fossil record to infer patterns of environmental change resulting in extinction and changes to life forms surrounding streams.
That's nice.
And clarification statement, I do like.
The clarification statement, examples of evidence include sets of fossils that indicate an environment, anatomical structures that indicate the function of an organism in the environment, and fossilized tracks that indicate behavior of organisms. Assessment boundary assessment does not include the names of individual species or presents.
Same.
I really like
I
that.
prefer the revised.
I move to use Massachusetts revised in lieu of the NGSS standard,
Well, let's go on.
LS 41.
Alright, all those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Yeah, so it's Massachusetts revised.
Yeah.
Alright, oh, hold on, I'm looking for this so I can make a note in my paper here. Middle school.
Did you get my
She's still looking for the page where to write down.
Yeah, I'm just writing it down. It's, and we don't have the middle school life science page in what Shelley gave us. Nope. No. I have
Yeah, we
my
do.
copy.
It's the first page.
This looks different.
Yeah,
I'm
two.
looking at it, no.
Okay, so revised standard. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, or all those opposed say nay.
Nay.
And abstain?
And one abstain.
I'm trying to figure out what it was. Did you just?
I can read it again.
Read it.
Right here, if you can read it.
Inferring patterns is making assumptions from nothing.
you inferring that long periods of time lay down layers of different fossils in it? Is that what you're inferring? Or that, are you inferring that most of the fossils got laid down in a big flood and?
Inferring that there's patterns, so there are patterns of environmental change resulting in extinction and changes to life forms. So, you know, the Earth has changed when it comes to where the continents are, et cetera, and so there's patterns in the rocks that can tell, you know, where at what point certain areas were.
There's slow movement of the continents.
Right. And so obviously that makes changes in the life forms and where they are and what environment they're in.
But we see relationships between fossils on this continent and fossils on this continent because they're in the same rock age layer. There's patterns.
I'm not saying the word is
Oh, it's on the revised Massachusetts one.
Because you start saying consensus in the scheme.
Oh, to and from construction. I'm looking right at it, it's just so tiny.
They're gonna end up hiding, teach it, and writing it in there. What's happening like separate blanket or supporting examples and stuff, yeah. Yeah.
I think this one's a much clearer.
As far as I can tell, there's no polarity.
Right. I mean, it's.
So you're saying there are comments?
It says, analyze and interpret evidence from the fossil record to infer patterns of environmental change resulting in extinction and changes to life forms throughout the history of the year.
This is something I've never done before.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, I do apologize.
For Massachusetts revised, we're looking at this idea of inferring patterns, we're just clarifying what that means.
Oh, okay. So inferring patterns being like, when we see, for example, here in the, well, not Kansas City, but in Kansas City, there's a really great, it's the Pennsylvania layer, or the I can't remember which one, but it's where the ocean used to be, a very, very small ocean marshland, like all these marine fossils, and you can actually go and pick them up and look at them. But we not only see that here, we see that somewhere else. Well, why were these fossils so well preserved? And the idea being it was a very rapid, either landslide or something happened that just landed on top of them to the point that they were frozen in time, if you will, and fossilized. And we see that same kind of pattern of fossilization somewhere else. So that would be like an inference of pattern over different locations, if I understood that.
Influence of a worldwide flood. If you had the same event happening somewhere on some other continent, that would be a worldwide.
No, it's not saying a worldwide flood. It's just saying that this type of event leads to this type of fossilization.
I think he's saying that would have created a pattern at that point, because there's been a lot of fossils that have happened at that time.
No, he's not saying pattern like in. It's not saying pattern of this level of the Earth's soil layer all over the planet. It's just saying in this location. So, for example, in the marshes, someone can help me. I think I'm the name of the trees. I can never remember. That eventually break down. They break down over time to become petroleum. Mangroves. In the mangroves, yeah, back in a long time ago. Over time, those wonderful marsh areas have turned into what we call our oil deposits now. And that's technically a fossil, it's fossil fuels. And so we find wherever we see these fossil deposits similar geological structures that lead to the assumption, if you will, that this is the type of event that occurred. This is how we see that pattern. That's what it's talking about patterns. We just see the same types of fossilization after this event or whatnot.
But I think, well, I think you just said basically what you said too. If there was, you know, this large,
okay.
If there was a large flood, then at a certain layer or a certain point, we would see common characteristics throughout areas that would have been affected by it.
It was just giving an example.
Oh, okay. And so we could then form a process, go out in the field and test.
So a lot of these hydrocarbons that are buried on the beds of blanket there, some of those are 10,000, 14,000 feet deep, all the way up to, it could be up to the surface area, because all it does is move out the surface area. But you're looking at this plant material, you're looking at coal that are, hundreds of feet below surface. You're looking at hydrocarbon, which basically we get our oil and gas from. And these are down to, like I said, can be from 2,000 to 16,000 feet. So, how did they get there? Was it a gradual, one layer, over millions of years keep building up, or did it happen a stack, it's catastrophe, where this was caused? And, if you look at what is the best solution for what happened?
Well, you're looking, it's like I tell the students, if you're sitting in Mr. Williams' class every day, third hour, and you hear me yelling and the door slamming over a period of a week, then you're going to infer, because of that pattern, you're going to infer Mr. Raymond gets angry about 10 o'clock every day. Okay? And there must be something going on with the kid.
So then you form your hypothesis and you go, you figure it out.
And so then they at some point they're going to hear me and they're going to go, oh, it must be 10 o'clock. Okay? Because they work off that pattern. That's just all that standard saying is to look at the evidence and infer from the pattern what you believe is going on with it.
Okay, let me give you a different example. In an area, there's a marshy land, and so the fossil records show, and we know that because there's fish fossils. And then right on top of it is a layer of igneous rock. So why did the fish die? Well, the fish died because there was a volcano nearby and it erupted, because the next layer of rock is igneous rock. That's all they're asking for in this video, is for kids to realize that they can look at layers of rock and they can make inferences of what happened. Why did those fish die? Those fish died because there was a volcanic eruption and their water and all of that was covered with rock.
So we voted, Dennis, were you able to vote?
Yeah.
We were voting on the Massachusetts revised, and there was one abstain, one no, and everybody else was yes.
Okay, so what else do we have to do?
Well, that
We all these rest of them right here.
That takes care of the evolutionary selection.
May I suggest that we just do all of the high school or science as one big chunk instead of breaking it
I
down?
agree.
Yes,
And
I
then
agree.
go to middle school or science, do it all.
Yeah,
as a
because
chunk?
all of them are, there's one,
Instead of doing it by
There's-
topic.
there's one life science one up in that.
We can go back to that.
It's actually already been taken care of. It was 4-6. We already took care of it.
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, we did when we were
The
doing the
general
last
verbal,
one,
there's the
yes.
models versus simulation.
we got that.
We already took care of it.
So we're going to
Okay,
high
we did
school or
all of them.
science?
Wait, I don't think we did all the middle schools.
Those high
No,
school.
high school, we did, somebody said we had one life science one left over, the 4-6.
Oh, we did all of four,
So
not
we
just
did
the ones
all
that are
of
listed
it.
at the top, we did them all.
Yes.
Gotcha,
We
okay,
did
that's that
everything.
one.
Life science is now done.
Except for those last two.
Yeah, no, it's not done, that's my point.
Well, based on, I'm talking about this list. I'm just talking about this list.
About
Well,
this
it-
list, off
it
this
said
list.
all. It said all.
Yeah, that we're not
They had
done.
us different.
Yeah, we're not done with that.
We did two
Oh,
and
okay.
three.
Oh, life
Okay,
science.
so 2 and 3 we got rid of because they're in high school, correct?
Yes. So we've got 4,
So
5,
we
and
have
6.
4, 5, and 6. Let's go ahead and knock that out since we're already here. I don't need to hop around.
4, 5, and 6.
So 4, 5, and 6.
There's no responses.
No responses on the survey.
Well, I'd say that's pretty solid.
It's on page 31 of the PDF, it's the document listed as page 40.
LS 4-4.
Middle school.
Middle school, we're middle
Life
school.
science 4-4. Should be right under what we were just doing. We were doing 4-1.
Construct an explanation based on evidence that describes how genetic variations of traits in a population increase some individuals' probability of surviving and reproducing in a specific environment. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on using simple probability statements and proportional reasoning to construct explanations. First step.
I think we're good on that one. That's why I wasn't listed originally.
Massachusetts revised, we're on the, we like that standard, they were just looking to see whether or not, was a different wording that we liked better. So Massachusetts revised. So are we under general verbal agreement that the original in TSS is okay? All right. Okay.
So are we now done?
4.5 and 4.6.
Okay, so 4.5. Gather and synthesize information about the technologies that have changed the way humans influence the inheritance of desired traits in organisms.
The only thing on the survey said move this one to high school.
Yeah, because we talk about gene therapy and stuff.
I teach that to my seniors.
And artificial selection.
Yeah, and genetic modification, that's almost,
It's the dog thing. You can talk about dogs to these kids. I mean, maybe clean up the clarification.
I think the clarification may be cleaned up because, yeah, that's artificial selection I get, but gene therapy and all that, they don't husbandry yet.
Well, Massachusetts revised has a shorter clarification statement. It just says emphasis is on the influence of humans on genetic outcomes in artificial selection.
There were 8 people who suggested to me that that's more than
Yeah, that's people probably being scared about the gene therapy comment.
I think the revised clarification statement I like.
The idea of that you know what we talked about earlier, that there was wild dogs and humans came along and they found the ones that were a little more congenial and they bred those and so they picked certain characteristics.
Okay, I like the, yeah, I think.
The kids can pick up on that. That's
Revised clarification, is that what that is?
Yeah, the revised, well, Massachusetts revised even changes the standard a little bit. It says synthesize and communicate information about artificial selection or the ways in which humans have changed the inheritance of desired traits in organisms.
the standard's fine. It's just the clarification.
Yeah, the clarification part, let's shorten that up.
Yeah, I think it's fine in middle school because, like I said, we're farming stage for kids.
Yeah, but take a
Kids, yeah, kids get
Yeah,
it.
we don't wander around and just capture cattle and invent it. We actually,
Well, the kids are living down time to see what good.
Yeah, but maybe they.
No, you shouldn't see dogs.
But they understand.
Yeah, but they might understand dogs or, you know.
Yeah, so
Or
leave the
apples.
standard the way it is, but the clarification statement.
Take a clarification.
Well, read that one again.
The shortened clarification statement says emphasis is on the influence of humans on genetic outcomes in artificial selection such as genetic modification, animal husbandry, and it says and gene therapy. So it talks about that as a possibility in artificial selection, but it doesn't talk about using that.
There's nothing wrong with this clarification statement beyond, I would just get rid of the gene therapy.
Yeah.
seems like a reach.
Yeah.
I wish they could use the current farming.
synthesize, emphasis is on synthesizing information from reliable sources. Why? Shouldn't they all be reliable?
Yeah.
About the influence of
that's
humans
just-
on genetic outcomes and artificial selection.
That's-
They're trying to put some
that's
Common Core in there with
internet.
it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
making
the
some,
assumption.
which, you know, they have
Those
to
are
write.
assumptions from the Common Core for the math, I mean, that's just all they're doing.
And on the impacts these technologies have on society as well as the technologies leading to these scientific discoveries.
I think that gets a bit much. We just
Yeah.
stop it after the gamification, animal husbandry thing.
Yeah.
In farming practices, hey, there you go, there's your
In
farming.
farming practices.
Instead of gene therapy and farming practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be up the
If
rule,
you
have
put
something
that
in here.
there, if you put that in there, then you're suddenly gonna go, oh,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Cause that can be
We're
plants, animals.
selecting for traits in animals.
So
Animals and
change,
plants.
so change gene therapy to
I
farming.
don't know about the rest of y'all, but
Yeah.
I'm very thankful they selected the Honeycrisp apples.
Oh, yes.
No,
They're
they're
very-
apples
yeah.
for me.
Now that you just.
I'm very thankful that they selected the Honeycrisp apples.
They're like twins instead
You
of.
like Honeycrisp?
Oh, they are. IB
Okay.
had some huge ones, and there was like fist fights in the house over it. They're good.
Okay, so.
Such as gamification, animal
Yeah.
husbandry, and farming practices
Right,
instead
and
of.
then we're taking off the rest of that.
Yes, and we're taking off the rest of it. So
Then
we're gonna,
stop there, yeah.
we're gonna have gene modification, animal husbandry, and farming practices, and then stop, right?
Period, yeah.
Alright, okay.
We need a general verbal agreement on that one? Looks like it? Okay. All right, last one, we'll probably get through this one, and then it'll be time to Susan to go, and I'll have my stuff growling.
Me?
Use mathematical representations to support explanations of how natural selection may lead to increases and decreases of specific traits in populations over time. Clarification statement. Emphasis is on using mathematical models, probability statements, and proportional reasoning to support explanations of trends and changes to populations over time. Assessment boundary does not include the Hardy-Weinberg
Is
population.
this school, you think?
Why does this sound so familiar?
It's very similar to a high school one, that's what I
That's high
mean.
school thing.
Because we talked about this in the when we were just talking about the
Yeah.
genetics, the Hardy-Weinberg calculations are part of the
And this
genetics.
isn't realistic for middle school, we're gonna think, yeah, he's gonna put the model.
According to Hardy-Weinberg, my son has no ability to overtake the world with his genetic mutation.
But no, it wants you to use mathematical representation.
But is
So
it
it could
similar
say
enough to high
graphs.
school that we
Well,
don't want to?
The survey says interpretation of graphs that represent natural
I
selection
agree.
leading
Instead of
to.
saying mathematical representation, just say
Yeah.
graphical representation.
Interpretation of graphs, the kids need help with that.
They do.
They're terrible,
They
and
need
that's something in
more.
middle school, yeah, interpretation of graphs, or,
So
I like that. Instead of the first part, yeah.
Can we just say use mathematical interpretations to support, or I'm sorry, graphical interpretations to
Yeah.
support explanations of how natural selection. It's just change mathematical representations to graphical representations.
Well, then your
But
clarification
they're using
statement-
it instead of interpreting it.
I'm sorry,
You're making
you're
it
right, it's
interpret.
saying
Your
They're
graphical
reading-
interpretation.
Yeah.
Your clarification statement says using mathematical models, probability statements, and proportional reasoning.
Yeah, they're talking about.
Now, graphing, would be your proportional reasoning and can be your mathematical models.
Yeah.
So it's covered in there. What if we just say emphasis is using,
Well, you could look at a graph and
Mathematical
say,
models.
is it probable based on this data that this species is
well, just, how about on the clarification statement, we say emphasis is using mathematical models and then in parentheses put graphing.
Well, then the question is, why are you?
I said, do you even need it then?
Why do you need a clarification statement? Why not just say, use that intuition graphs? Use graphical interpretation if you want to support explanations, or use, what did they say? Use interpretation of graphs to support
Interpret.
explanations and
Interpret graphical representations.
interpretations. To support explanations of how natural selection may lead to increases and decreases of specific traits of population over time. I don't think you need a clarification statement. That's pretty basic. But the assessment boundary about the Hardy-Weinberg, well, I leave that in.
I agree.
Okay, so how.
Cause that clarification gets awfully wordy, but I think.
You don't even need to
Cause if you got graphs, yeah.
You don't even need to have the assessment boundary because that's not anything to do with everyone.
Yeah, I don't really have graphical, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay,
So
done.
the-
Interpret graphical representation, interpret graphical representations to support explanations of how natural selection may lead to increases and decreases of specific traits in populations over time.
So middle school has time to do that,
And then
middle school
scratch-
people.
Scratch
No,
everything else.
Except for the assessment
I
boundary.
am, but we
It's
had a
not
conversation
graphical.
being there.
Hardy Weinberg is not graphical, so by stating graphical, you don't need to have that assessment
So-
boundary.
I'm gonna make you just.
Good luck.
I'm done, Hardy Weinberg.
Okay, so are we okay with the new wording? General level agreement?
Now, these are reasons that we are voting on to address.
Correct. And these should be set. All right, so that's life science. Or
Yeah, that's it. High school and middle school.
high school and middle school, that's the life science.
Only part of
Well,
that.
yeah, this is just the biological evolution. This is life science core is done for high school and middle
Yeah.
school. It's voted on, it's good,
We're out of these.
Yeah, we're done with those. So, okay, so when we get back, we'll do the earth science, we'll do high school earth science and then middle school earth science. And then then our hot topics will be addressed and maybe that will probably be done for the day, I would imagine.
Well, this one, this show, once we get back to lunch, we have like 2 hours.
Yeah, so then we could say, when we come back in June, we'll address all the small group things, because you guys had the wording done for all the other small group things, correct?
Other than that,
Pretty
one is the science. Yeah.
Well,
I'm
there
not gonna
was-
be here.
well,
Yeah,
there
I'm
was-
not gonna be here.
And there was a life science one that I had made a note on too. There was something about it.
Material science one. I don't know.
But
Or what day is that meeting?
June sixth.
Saturday, June sixth.
Saturday, June 6th. It's Saturday, June 6th. I will be flying back home that day.
Just flying to sleep. We can do that.
Yeah, but my flight doesn't leave New Orleans until the afternoon. So if you got something, I can. Skype anything. Well, it's actually going to Meridian, Mississippi. I'm just flying out of New Orleans because there's no good place to fly in and out otherwise. Meridian, Mississippi.
So when are we gonna cut the?
So if you want to call me, that's
the
what.
elementary.
Susan, on that, I had to fly at 3 o'clock. I'll just be going to the airport this one, so you guys can contact me in middle school on that day if you want. I mean, on the material science.
Possibly, I mean, we gotta get through this part
Yeah.
first, because we're not even ready to place in a document or anything.
Well, could we find out if elementary has theirs in a document and if you get that ahead of time?
They have a document. I don't know if all their stuff is in
So
there.
yeah, that's great. So
Do
Friday.
you have the contact for their chair?
Bob Brazel, yeah, I do.
Where's he from?
Find out.
Don't remember.
Warren's from there.
I just sent you all everything we've done this week.
Got it.
Okay.
I need a phone number.
My phone number is 660. 246. 3504. And we're in the same time zone meeting, so that's even sweet. Works.
Okay.
So, if you want me on, anything like you want to do that day,
Okay.
I am
We're ready
available.
to go.
So,
Harris's is right across the,
I have,
right across
Say
the
you
street.
want
Harris's
something.
Pizza, and they have pizza and green cheese.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You go,
As soon as I was putting that up, I
you go out, and go across the street this
I'll
way.
get to it tonight. If not, feel free to.
Is it raining?
Yeah, and say, get it. It's not raining.
It's not very
I'm taking my tablet.
Charge while I'm gone.
I'm taking my computer, I'm not
Other
gonna
stuff.
This-
I mean, the store, or this room's not gonna be locked up or anything, but there's also nobody here, so I don't think it'll be an issue, but bring valuables.
I'll leave my pumpkin seeds at home, if I'm hungry that desperate, let them have it.
I just don't wanna come back and find somebody locked up and valuables home. And so I gotta leave some sign that we are still coming back.
Oh, well, yeah, I'll leave my paper.
I'm leaving my stuff there.
No, it's probably not too much.
No, it's not raining.
It's warmer out there than here.
It's gotta be. This room is.
Oh. There he is. Okay. I want to be open the window, or open the doors, yeah, we don't see anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
So Claire, do you stop that when we go to lunch?
Huh?
Do you want me to stop it when we go to lunch or just?
Yes, I need to stop it, yeah. Just need to hit pause.
I still have my first one, I'm like, what do I have? Cold.
Twice.